Chapter 420. Yiran Mo laughed strangely and said, Brother Chu, don't waste your time. Do you think that a mere king-level expert can escape the pursuit of an emperor-level expert? However, Brother Chu, it's been many years since I've seen you so flustered. Don't tell me that little girl is someone very important to you. Chu Fei Ling shouted angrily. Bullshit! However, he also felt a little emotional. How many years has it been? How many years had it been since he had been so furious? The last time he was so furious was when his son went missing. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel a sharp pain in his heart. If he died here today, even if his son was eventually found, he would never be able to see him again. Ha ha ha! Brother Chu, I heard that your son has gone missing. Could it be that this little guy? Ha ha ha! He looks very similar to you. Brothers, I didn't think that we would be able to kill the eldest brother of the Chu clan today. Yiran Mo laughed wildly. Ha! The other 7 people laughed at the same time. Nonsense! That little brother has nothing to do with me. Chu Fei Ling became furious. Yiran Mo, don't wrongly accuse the innocent. Nothing? Yiran Mo put on a fake smile as he said. He's innocent. And he's not your son. So, why are you so anxious? Chu Fei Ling snorted angrily. Suddenly, a saber light flashed, and a dense green saber light hacked out in a continuous manner. Yiran Mo raised his saber to parry. The 2 sabers collided with a loud bang, and sparks flew in all directions. Yiran Mo's body suddenly swayed, and his face exposed a surprised look. He could feel that Chu Fei Ling's cultivation was much higher than his own. Before he could regain his senses, another saber slashed down. Yiran Mo once again blocked with his saber. He then retreated a step. However, the 3rd saber strike had already arrived. Chu Fei Ling's face was ghastly pale after being illuminated by the saber light. He was filled with murderous intent. Murderous intent filled the air. Chu Fei Ling hated Yiran Mo to the extreme at this moment. No matter what, he had to cut this person down with his saber. Yiran Mo repeatedly blocked the blade. His complexion had already turned deathly pale, and he shouted loudly, Attack together! Needless to say, the other 7 people didn't stay idle either. They attacked one after another. At this moment, a long howl came from afar. It was Chu Yang's voice. Ha ha ha, we've already caught up! Yiran Mo said with a sinister smile as blood trickled down from the corners of his mouth. Chu Fei Ling's heart was burning with anxiety. Suddenly, he slashed out thousands of times in a row in an instant. The saber light then gathered into a light curtain. With a strange sound, he and his saber turned into an invincible and bright light beam. He rushed out of the encirclement without any resistance. A black-clothed man screamed. His body spun and flew out of the encirclement. Every time his burly body spun in the air, a circle of blood spilled out. Chu Fei Ling also paid the price. With a muffled groan, his back was slashed, and blood spurted out. However, Chu Fei Ling didn't seem to feel anything. He became one with his saber and shouted. Then, he rushed madly toward the place where the long howl had come from. Chase after him! Yiran Mo fiercely roared. I would rather die than let Chu Yang stay here forever. If we let him go back, sooner or later, he will become a great threat to our Yi clan. He had spoken these words from the bottom of his heart. Chu Fei Ling was more than 20 years younger than him. Yiran Mo had always thought that Chu Fei Ling was at most on par with him. The news from the Chu clan had said that Chu Fei Ling was only a 5th-grade martial emperor. However, he had realized that the rumors were poles apart from the reality after today's battle. Chu Fei Ling's strength is obviously much stronger than mine. He's at least a 7th or 8th grade saber emperor. Chu Fei Ling has been hiding his strength for so many years. His mind and cultivation are extremely frightening. If such a person is allowed to live and grow. Moreover, I've already formed a deadly enmity with him today. What is he if he isn't a great threat? Yiran Mo crazily scolded someone in his heart as he thought of this. Chu Fei Long, Chu Fei Long. You motherfucker, Aren't you cheating me? You were the one who reported the news. You were the one who provided the whereabouts. You were the one who provided the information. You said that your elder brother is only a 5th grade martial emperor. My fucking 5th grade martial emperor. I believed it. But I still dispatched 8 3rd grade saber emperors to be safe. Moreover, I personally led the team. Who would have thought that your elder brother is a terrifying 8th grade saber emperor? You've cheated me to death. My chest is still in great pain because of your 5th grade martial emperor elder brother. Motherfucker. My internal organs have been injured by the shock. Motherfucker. You ran and prayed in his heart, elder. My dear elder, hurry up and take care of that little bastard. Let's get rid of Chu Fei Ling together. Otherwise, I'm really going to be in trouble. Chu Yang shouted. Then he felt that the air behind him was violently vibrating. He turned his head and saw a black-clothed man rushing towards him at an extremely fast speed. Motherfucker! Chu Yang shouted. He turned around and fled in all directions. The black-clothed man looked at Chu Yang, who was running around in a panic. He exposed a cruel smile on his face. Then he accelerated and pounced on Chu Yang. He thought that it would be easy to capture Chu Yang this time. However, when he was only 15 meters away from Chu Yang, who was running away in a sorry state, suddenly turned around. Looking at the black-clothed old man who was chasing after him alone, Chu Yang's eyes revealed a strange smile as if he had succeeded in his scheme. Little bastard! You still want to run away? The black-clothed man burst into loud laughter. He shook his head and was extremely proud of himself. You want to kill me? Chu Yang retreated step by step in a panic. He tripped over a stone and nearly fell down. He hastily jumped up and looked at the black-clothed man with a calm expression. However, his eyes were flickering with a frightened light. So what if I kill you? You little bastard! You injured me. So I won't kill you. You wish. The black-clothed man calmly landed on the ground. He crossed his hands behind his back. He had the demeanor of an expert. However, he was quickly adjusting his breathing to restore his strength. The fight with Chu Fei Ling was extremely thrilling. My chest and abdomen were almost cut open. The wound on my abdomen is still bleeding. Since the boss gave me the chance to adjust my breathing, how can I waste it? Moreover, this little guy is really weak. I thought that I would have to spend a lot of effort to catch up with him. I didn't expect that I would catch up so quickly. He's really a rookie. To deal with such a rookie, I can easily capture him with one finger. I shouldn't make a fuss out of nothing. Don't kill me, okay? Chu Yang asked pitifully. I can give you that thing, as long as you don't kill me. Yes. What is that thing? Quickly take it out. The black-clothed man's heart skipped a beat. The elixir that Chu Fei Ling gave me? Damn! That's good stuff. That thing. Chu Yang searched his body on the left and right. He looked anxious. Where is it? Where is it? Where did I put it? Are you playing with me? The black-clothed man stepped forward and shouted angrily. Chu Yang was even more anxious. How would I dare to play with you? Then take it out! The black-clothed man snorted. Found it! Chu Yang cheered. There? Here! Chu Yang stretched out his right hand with a fawning look on his face. It seemed that he was holding something in his palm. He looked reluctant to part with it. Give it to me! The black-clothed man stretched out his hand to grab it. Give it to your grandmother! Chu Yang shouted. The black-clothed man was startled by the scolding. He was about to jump up in anger when he saw a flash in Chu Yang's empty palm. A long sword suddenly appeared. It rushed towards the black-clothed man with a biting cold sword energy like an angry dragon. The black-clothed man didn't expect that a king-level expert would dare to attack him, a third-grade emperor-level expert. He was still stretching out his hand with an expectant and complacent look on his face. He was caught off guard by the sword light. The black-clothed man shouted angrily. His upper body leaned back and his feet flew back at the same time. He felt a chill in front of his chest. Then, his chest was fiercely slashed again with a schwa sound. This sword didn't pierce his heart because he had retreated quickly. Instead, it cut a big wound from his chest to his lower abdomen. The deepest part of the wound was his pink intestine, which had begun to bulge out. This sword attack was much more serious than Chu Fei Ling's saber attack. The black-clothed man looked at Chu Yang with disbelief in his eyes. What kind of divine weapon is that in his right hand? It almost killed me, an emperor-level expert, with the cultivation of a king-level expert. Then, he burst into uncontrollable rage. This is a disgrace. I have no face. This old man was plotted against by a mere second-grade king-level expert. This had become the biggest joke in the entire heavenly layer. However, he didn't have time to get angry. He saw that this little guy didn't stop. He was looking at him with ice-cold eyes. His body and sword merged into one, and turned into a wild dragon. Then, he violently rushed towards him. At the same time, a low and deep voice softly echoed, "What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world?" The voice wasn't loud, but it fiercely wedged itself into the deepest part of the black-clothed man's heart. The black-clothed man felt a crazy shock in his heart. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? This sword move isn't from the legends. This thought shocked him so much that he almost lost his ability to react. Such a legendary existence was actually encountered by him? If that's the case, then isn't this sword? However, the sword light had already reached his body. The black-clothed man stared in horror. He covered his stomach with one hand to stop his intestines from bulging out of his body. Then, he waved his saber to block the attack. At the same time, he desperately retreated, flying back. However, Chu Yang's move, "What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world?" could be executed with his current strength. He could madly rush forward for 500 feet. Within 500 feet, it was enough to destroy everything in its path. There was nothing it couldn't destroy. Now that it had exploded within 30 feet, he couldn't dodge it no matter how he retreated. The sword and the saber collided. However, the black-clothed man was seriously injured. How could he block the sharpest calamity sword in the world? A loud sound was heard. Chapter 421. The black-clothed elder screamed as he clutched his stomach with his left hand. However, Chu Yang's face was calm. His eyes were cold as he chased after him. The sword light was still merciless. As soon as it touched the black-clothed elder, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The black-clothed elder was still retreating, but the sword light was faster. Like a maggot, it quickly caught up. Poof! The calamity sword rushed into the black-clothed elder's chest. This was the first time the black-clothed elder was killed. The sword tip, sword edge and sword edge emitted a violent murderous aura at the same time. It was as if the elder's blood had awakened the ferocity that had been hidden for 10,000 years. The tyrannical sword energy immediately exploded in his internal organs. With a boom, countless sword energies broke through his body and rushed out of his body. His internal organs were all turned into powder at this moment. The black-clothed elder's body became soft like a deflated balloon. But his neck was still straight, and his eyes hadn't even changed from panic. He stood weakly with his back hunched, and looked at the shining sword that was stabbed into his chest. Suddenly he raised his head with difficulty, and looked at Chu Yang. He asked with difficulty, "You are the master of Calamity's sword?" Chu Yang's heart shook. He looked at the black-clothed elder with cold eyes and said lightly, "How do you know?" The black-clothed elder had lost all signs of life. Chu Yang was not afraid. Instead, he was curious that the black-clothed elder knew his identity. "Ha!" The black-clothed elder laughed bitterly. "What harm in slaughtering the entire world? I didn't expect that. Calamity. Sword Master, actually, allowed me to open a market." Chu Yang snorted, but his heart shook. The Yi clan was indeed the #1 clan in the heavenly layers. They actually remembered the names of the moves of Calamity's sword. In that case, it would be better for me not to call out these moves in the future. Damn it, I didn't expect that the habit of my previous life would have such a hidden danger. The black-clothed elder's eyes suddenly lit up. He opened his mouth and shouted. He is… Chuyang let out a loud roar. The sword light slashed from bottom to top with a schwa sound, and split him into two halves. A head was separated from the middle. The two halves of the corpse slowly fell down. A saber emperor died in the hands of the newly matured Calamity Sword Master in these 3 days. Chuyang coldly snorted. This bastard wants to call out my identity even before he dies. With a wave of his hand, the 2 pieces of the black-clothed old man's broken saber were put into the tribulation space. If the rest of the people came and saw the 2 pieces of the saber, they would definitely be wary of their own divine weapons. This was something that they couldn't see. A long howl came from afar, followed by a green ray of light flying over like a meteor. Behind the green light, there were 8 other lights swaying as they approached. Chu Fei-ling suddenly landed and called out, "Little brother, are you all right?" Suddenly he saw the black-clothed old man's corpse, and suddenly cried out in alarm. He opened his mouth wide and took 2 steps back. You killed him?" His voice was filled with disbelief. Chu Fei-ling had never been so surprised in his life. This was simply inconceivable. Heavens, who can explain what is going on? A weapon-grade saber emperor had chased after a second-grade sword king. How could he have died in such a short time? I'm not dreaming, am I? Chuyang nodded in embarrassment. Chu Fei-ling was petrified. Schwa! 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 Mo and the others landed, and turned their heads to look around. How come only this little bastard is here? Where's Elder? Where did he go? Suddenly a scream was heard. The black-clothed old ape trembled as he pointed to the ground, and screamed. Elder? The other people discovered that there was a badly mutilated corpse on the ground. It was their younger brother's corpse. They couldn't help but cry out in alarm at the same time. Mo flew into a rage. Who killed my younger brother? Come out if you have the guts! The other 7 people pulled out their sabers and looked around. Their eyes were bitingly cold and filled with grief and indignation. The surroundings were empty. There wasn't even a sound to be heard. A gust of wind blew, and the yellow sand swirled in the air. The 8 people couldn't believe that their younger brother had been killed by this shrimp-like second-grade king-level expert in front of them. It was impossible. How could a third-grade emperor-level expert die in the hands of a second-grade king-level expert? Even a person as stupid as a pig wouldn't associate it in this way. So, it must be someone else since he wasn't the one who killed him, and we saw Chu Fei-ling's corpse. Who is this person? Mo looked up to the sky and roared. He then cursed loudly. Fuck you! You dare to kill someone, but don't dare to admit it? Come out! You're a despicable person who hides his head and shows his tail. You're a shameless villain who takes advantage of people's perilous state. You're going to be cut into pieces. The other 7 people also cursed loudly. Their eyes were bloodshot, and their emotions were stirred up. Chu Fei-ling opened his mouth and looked at these 8 people who had lost control of their emotions. Then, he looked at the innocent and terrified murderer who was standing in front of him. He suddenly felt speechless from the bottom of his heart. Fuck. What's going on here? The murderer is right in front of you, okay? What are you looking for? The 8 people cursed for a long time until they were tired. So, they stopped. However, their mouths were still cursing. Chuyang turned a deaf ear to them. He put on a frightened expression, and hid behind Chu Fei-ling. His expression was innocent and pure. He looked like a good youngster who had never seen a corpse before. Just look at his expression. This youngster's temperament is pure and honest. He's kind and innocent. He's like a flower that grew up in a greenhouse. Mo suddenly turned his head, and fiercely looked at Chuyang. Little bastard. How did my brother die? What did you see? Tell me the truth. The other 7 people also suddenly realized that there was another witness here. They fiercely looked at Chu Yang. Their expressions were ferocious. It seemed as if they wanted to swallow Chu Yang whole. I. It's none of my business. Minister Chu's legs seemed to have gone soft from fear. His voice also trembled. Tell me the truth! Mo roared. I'll spare your life as long as you tell the truth. The expression on Chu Fei Ling's face became even more strange. In fact, it was somewhat distorted. Chu Yang trembled. I'm so scared, don't be afraid. Mo was very angry. However, he had no choice but to soften his tone in order to find out the real culprit who had killed his brother. He suppressed his anger and murderous intention. He then lowered his voice and comforted Chu Yang. Don't be afraid. I won't kill you as long as you tell the truth. I'll even reward you. Reward? Chu Yang's eyes lit up. He greedily stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Yes. Mo was very amiable. He even smiled. What reward? Minister Chu timidly asked. This. Mo was so angry that his belly almost exploded. However, Chu Fei Ling was glaring at him like a tiger watching its prey. So, it was impossible to interrogate him. This hateful little bastard is taking advantage of this opportunity to loot a burning house. He had no choice but to reach into his bosom and take out a purple crystal. Do you see this? This purple crystal is yours as long as you tell me. The purple crystal that Mo had taken out was as big as a fist. It was sparkling and translucent with purple light. It seemed to be very valuable. Chu Fei Ling also chimed in. Little brother, Brother Yi is very sincere. You should tell him. As for the account between us, there's no harm in settling it later. Mo straightened up. He looked at Chu Fei Ling with mixed feelings. Then, he said in a heavy voice. Brother Chu is indeed a gentleman. This Yi admires you. Chu Fei Ling almost laughed out loud. He felt extremely carefree in his heart. He smiled and said, It doesn't matter. That matter is that matter. Now, it's more important to find the real murderer. This Chu is a step late. I'm also very ashamed that I didn't see the real murderer. One of them wanted to give it to Chu Yang with sincerity. The other one wanted to help him. And Chu Yang wanted it wholeheartedly. Minister Chu stretched out his hand. He hesitantly took the purple crystal and put it in his pocket. Then, he looked around with fear in his eyes. I'm afraid that he's still in the vicinity. Mo heard this and understood the meaning behind his words. He turned his head and said, You guys set up a perimeter. Keep a close watch on the surroundings. Don't let the murderer hurt this little brother. The little bastard has also become little brother, little brother. The 7 people complied and spread out. Mo had a fake smile on his face. He approached Chu Yang. The two of them were only a few steps away from each other. Then, he said in an amiable manner, Little brother, you can tell me now. He thought in his heart, if you tell me, I'll turn you into mincemeat with my backhand. Then I'll snatch that thing from you. Chu Yang trembled and nodded. His eyes revealed a look of fear as he said, I don't know what happened. I was running for my life. Then, that man in black clothes suddenly flew down from the sky. He fell down in a flash. Oh? Mo's eyes flashed. Then, he scolded me. I ran away. But a voice suddenly came from that side. He said. Chu Yang's face exposed a look of extreme fear. It seemed that even the little bastard's face had turned pale. What did he say? Mo immediately raised his attention. He squinted his eyes and looked in the direction where Chu Yang was pointing. Well, there seems to be a few piles of stones over there. Could it be that the murderer was hiding there? At that time, he said. Chu Yang's voice became even lower. What did he say in the end? Mo was somewhat impatient. He was paying attention to the piles of stones on one side. Then, he turned his head and impatiently urged Chu Yang. He said. Chu Yang stammered. Then, he suddenly roared, He said that he was going to fucking milk. This shout was like a thunderclap in spring. It shook Yuran-Mo's mind, and sent him into a state of chaos. Chu Yang didn't hesitate at all. The calamity sword silently appeared in his hand as he shouted. Then, he crazily attacked the head of the man who had tilted his head, and was waiting for an answer. Chu Yang's hands and feet seemed to have spasmed at this moment. One ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? A sharp will buried deep does not change. A gathering of wind and clouds is the emperor. A sword blade that has been famous for all eternity. Wind and clouds move in the west and east. The sun and the moon work together, splitting the mountains and breaking the peaks. The sky is blood red. A blade crosses the sky for 10,000 autumns. This road leads to the netherworld, cutting off the lovers of the mortal world. Everything ends where the edge goes. Skeletons in the palm of my hand are as high as a mountain. A pool of blood surges under the sword. The mortal world is the path of ruthlessness, beheading the whole world without retracting the blade. Chu Yang crazily unleashed 10 moves in a row. These moves were the most powerful sword techniques in both ancient and modern times. They were all unleashed on Yuran-Mo's head, which was tilting his head and waiting for an answer. The sword light was like a tsunami. It instantly filled the entire radius of 30 feet. It wasn't wasted at all. Chapter 422. The sword light exploded like a thunderbolt. The sword energy collapsed like a mountain. In a split second, everyone was stunned. Everyone was stunned. Chu Fei-Ling was stunned as well. He had thought that this little guy would come out to vent his anger, and would jump behind him to seek protection. Therefore, Chu Fei-Ling had made preparations to provide support. After all, one of the opponents had already died. It seemed that the terrifying array couldn't be used anymore. Therefore, Chu Fei-Ling didn't need to fear the remaining 8 Saber Emperors since his cultivation was at the Saber Emperor level. However, he hadn't expected that this guy would make a move without any warning. Moreover, he had done it so violently. The remaining 7 Saber Emperors were also stupefied. Fuck! In the blink of an eye, this pitiful youngster had turned into the King of Hell, the King of Death? The most stunned one was Yuran-Mo, the great Saber Emperor. The old man was filled with resentment as he tilted his head to one side, preparing to listen to the news that he was most interested in from this little guy. Just as he was caught off guard, an extremely sharp sword aura suddenly erupted beside his head like a tsunami. This was a real tragedy. Yuran-Mo crazily screamed. He was trembling, spasming, and struggling. How could Chu Yang be merciful when he plundered them? It could be said that young Master Chu didn't know what it meant to be merciful in both his previous and current lives. The sword light fell like rain. Puff! The first responsibility was to erase Yuran-Mo's eyes, which were brimming with a strong thirst for knowledge. Yuran-Mo crazily screamed. The follow-up sword light had completely exploded. Shwa shwa shwa. Shwa shwa shwa. Yuran-Mo raised his hands to protect his head. But, shwa shwa shwa, the sword light was extremely sharp. Yuran-Mo's arms had turned into white bones in 1/100th of a second. Then, they got crushed. A big hole appeared in Yuran-Mo's chest with a puff sound. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? Everyone stared blankly at Yuran-Mo as if they had been struck by lightning. Yuran-Mo's body had been riddled with holes under the sword light. His head had turned into a skull without flesh and blood. Then, his entire body had turned into a skeleton. Then, with a schwa sound, his body had turned into a scarlet red color that fluttered in the air. Yuran-Mo had disappeared. It has to be said that Yuran-Mo was a dignified middle-grade Saber Emperor. But he had died in such an aggrieved manner. He hadn't even had a chance to fight back. It should be said that he hadn't even had the thought of fighting back. So, he had died. If Yuran-Mo knew about this after his death, perhaps he would be so angry that he would come back to life, and then die of anger again. The most outrageous thing was that Yuran-Mo had already disappeared. But that crisscrossing executioner's light couldn't stop its momentum, and crazily hacked at the air that was filled with dense blood and flesh. Half of the sword light burst out. Chu Yang's body spun around. Before everyone had woken up, Chu Yang nimbly hid behind Chu Fei Ling. Then, he gestured and ordered. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill them! Chu Fei Ling opened his mouth wide and let out a clear kacha sound. He finally closed his mouth, but then opened it again. With a hiss sound, he sucked in a breath of cold air. After recovering from his shock, he turned around and looked at Chu Yang. You killed him? Chu Fei Ling only felt that his mind was in a mess. How could this be? How could this be? How could a second-grade king-level expert break through an emperor-level expert's protective aura? A second-grade emperor-level expert's protective aura has already formed a protective Yuan gang. This was also the reason why Yiran Mo had dared to come so close to him. Yiran Mo couldn't have died in his hands no matter how one looked at it. But this had happened. Nonsense! Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said in a bad mood. He clearly felt that his IQ had been insulted. No matter how you look at it, there's still a 10% chance that they have the same origin. Why am I so smart, but you're so stupid? But... Chu Fei Ling's brain crashed. He couldn't react for a while. But what? Killing people is more important now. Chu Yang helplessly said. Big brother, can't you ask after this matter is over? Fuck. They've all woken up. You see, you've delayed the timing. Chu Yang was so angry that his stomach hurt. Sure enough, the 7 people on the other side issued a strange cry in unison. It was a heart-wrenching pain. They didn't dare to believe it, but they had no choice but to believe it. Big brother! Blood mist floated in the air. What are you shouting for? Your big brother has turned into ashes. Chu Yang said in an evil voice. What are you shouting for? It's an obvious fact. Your big brother has turned into ashes, and you're still calling him big brother. You killed my big brother! The black-clothed old man turned around and looked at Chu Yang in anger. Then, he suddenly roared in an earth-shattering manner. You bastard! You deserve to die! Not only your big brother, but that one over there, was also killed by me. Chu Yang proudly puffed out his chest. What? Bite me if you have the ability. This old man is really fierce. What's wrong with that? The black-clothed old man was so angry that his vision turned black. He roared wildly. Kill him! Avenge big brother and little brother! Kill him! Oh! Fuck! Chu Yang hastily turned to Chu Fei Ling. Big brother, it's your turn to show your invincible might. Chu Fei Ling didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at him. He couldn't help but think in his heart, motherfucker, what kind of evil and inhumane parents can give birth to such a clown? This matter is really too much. Blade Edge. Blade Edge 4, that Yiran Mo is also. Provoking such an unparalleled little ancestor is really a stroke of bad luck. The 7 people over there had already rushed over with blood-red eyes. Facing them head-on. Young Master Chu would never do something that didn't require skill. In fact, he wanted to do so. But he wasn't a match for any of these 7 people. He was afraid that he would be avenged if he rushed over. Therefore, Chu Yang hid behind Chu Fei Ling and waved his hand calmly. Go! Chu Fei Ling couldn't help but roll his eyes. But he still obediently went forward. Yiran Mo was the leader of the formation. So, the old man was also dead. The formation had already been defeated. So, how could the remaining 7 third-grade Saber Emperors be a match for Chu Fei Ling, who was at the peak of third-grade Saber Emperor's level? Chu Fei Ling cautiously pulled out his saber and went forward. But he was startled when he touched the saber. That's because the pressure he felt now was 3 or 4 times less than before. What's going on? Could it be that Yiran Mo's death is so effective? Chu Fei Ling didn't show the slightest bit of mercy. His appearance was refined and scholarly, but his moves were ruthless. His saber took lives with each strike. The difference in strength between the 2 sides was too big. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. It was like a tiger had entered a flock of sheep. Big Brother Chu only attacked. He didn't defend. Every saber strike made the enemy flee in distress. But he didn't have to worry about the opposite party's offensive. His belly full of resentment from being besieged a moment ago finally broke out incisively and vividly. The saber light moved like rain. Chu Fei-ling had suppressed the 7 saber emperors with his strength alone. The entire scene of the battle was like a dazzling ball of light. It was refracting a magnificent and strange brilliance under the sunlight. Chu Yang stood outside the battle circle. The playful look on his face had already disappeared without a trace. He was trying to figure out what was going on. These 8 people are Emperor-level experts. Each of them has their own unique skills. And each of them is worth learning. The Spirit Executioner was unceasingly displaying the moves that each of these experts had used. Then, he tirelessly pointed out the subtleties of each move. He pointed out where the next move was, and how to improve the attack to make it more powerful. He also pointed out how to defend himself if he were to face them. He also pointed out how to exploit their flaws. Chu Yang listened in a daze. Just as he was immersed in the endless mysteries of martial arts, he suddenly heard a scream. A black-clothed man's body had been cut into pieces by Chu Fei-ling's saber light in a split second. Chu Fei-ling's saber move looks like a single saber move. But it's actually a saber move. The sword spirit's eyes lit up as he said, "Look at his posture. His wrist was facing upwards when he wielded his saber. But his saber was already facing sideways when he wielded his saber. His palm was facing downwards when he wielded his saber. This way, the saber light changed 3 times with the help of his wrist. But the target was always the same. So, when the saber lights converged, the saber light would collide with each other and create a huge explosive force. This explosive force would split the saber light into pieces. This is what you see. This is a sure kill move. It's also a sure kill move." The sword spirit heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Don't think that this is very simple. But this move is useless if any saber light isn't in place and can't appear at the most suitable place. In the field of saber cultivation, this move is called yellow flower blooming. It's similar to the yellow flower pistil of the executioner's cultivation. I didn't expect a mere saber emperor to be able to use this move. This is a move that can only be comprehended by a monarch-level expert." Chu Yang grunted, carefully pondering over the mysteries of this move. But no matter how hard he thought, he still couldn't figure it out. "You don't have enough strength to use this move. If you practice this move rashly, I'm afraid you'll twist your wrist into a fried dough twist," the Spirit Executioner teased. Chu Yang didn't know why, but he clearly felt that the Spirit Executioner's attitude towards him had undergone a fundamental change since yesterday. He used to be somewhat impudent, but he was somewhat respectful now. Chu Yang didn't understand why there was such a change. Another blood-curdling scream was heard. Another saber emperor died under Chu Fei-ling's saber. There were only 5.5 kilograms left. And these 5 people were already riddled with scars. They couldn't hold on for much longer. After all, they couldn't resist the power of a low-grade saber emperor. The black-clothed old man screamed, "Brothers, let's fight to the death!" The 4 people complied. Their bodies simultaneously emitted a cold, murderous aura. An aura of despair suddenly pervaded the air. "They want to perish together!" Chu Yang's heart shook. "Their target is you!" The Spirit Executioner sighed deeply. Chapter 423. Meanwhile, the other 4 people were staking their lives to keep Chu Fei-ling busy. If one were to ask them who they hated the most, there would only be one person, Chu Yang. He's too hateful. This despicable man. This shameless bastard. Not only did he kill people, but he also deceived them. Moreover, he also humiliated them. They would rather die than to kill him. They would pay any price to kill him. This was the common wish of the remaining 5 people. As long as they could kill Chu Yang, kill this little bastard, it would be worth it even if the 5 of them died under Chu Fei-ling's saber. The saber light came whistling. "You can't stop it!" Sword Spirit looked at the incoming attack and said in a heavy voice, Either you retreat, or I'll do it! Chu Yang snorted. Then, he turned around and flew back. Sword Spirit revealed a look of appreciation. This is the mentality of a powerhouse. He wouldn't rely on others as long as there was a glimmer of hope. Chu Yang wouldn't rely on Sword Spirit as long as he wasn't in a life-or-death situation. He would only rely on himself. He would only explode in a desperate situation. He would make the greatest progress in a life-and-death situation. Chu Yang wouldn't make any progress if Sword Spirit were to bear all the dangers. It would have a great impact on his path to becoming a powerhouse in the future if he were to develop a little dependence on Sword Spirit. Chu Yang's body drifted from east to west like a light smoke. Beyond the heaven-sex fleeting snow cloud steppes were unleashed to the extreme at this moment. The black-robed second brother roared like thunder. He gritted his teeth and wished he could chop Chu Yang into meat paste. He swore that he wouldn't use the saber's edge to chop Chu Yang if he caught up with him. He would use the back of his saber to smash Chu Yang. He would smash Chu Yang into meat paste, and then eat him bite by bite. The incessant screams proved that his brother was being mercilessly slaughtered by Chu Fei Ling. The black-robed second brother resisted the urge to look back. My mission is to kill this little bastard. Kill! Kill! Little brother is in danger! Chu Fei Ling roared impatiently. Suddenly, a pale golden light erupted from his body. The saber light was like a white cloud in the sky encountering a hurricane. Layer after layer, it crazily surged up. Before the first wave had subsided, another wave rose up. The saber light shimmered and stretched on endlessly. This was Chu Fei Ling's ultimate skill, life and death saber art of reincarnation. This was Chu Fei Ling's self-created unique skill. Even the Sword Spirit in Chu Yang's mind was amazed by this move. The rolling sea of saber light engulfed the four heavily wounded bodies in an instant. Continuous blood-curdling screams resounded, and the four figures flew up at the same time with blood dripping from their bodies. Their bodies had already been torn into pieces in midair. The saber light surged and formed a bright white line. It blocked out the sunlight and shot through the sky at the speed of a meteor. Then, he madly rushed towards the direction where the black-robed second brother was chasing after Chu Yang. The black-robed second brother roared repeatedly. He could already feel the pressure behind him. He knew that his brothers were either dead or injured. However, this little bastard was as slippery as a loach. He had missed him by a hair's breadth several times. But he had slipped away again. He fiercely roared, and an arrow of blood suddenly flew out of his body. He had used a secret technique to stimulate his own vitality at this moment. His strength had doubled in the blink of an eye. His big saber rolled up a gust of wind, and formed a huge saber flower. Then, he launched an indiscriminate attack towards Chu Yang within a radius of 300 feet. This was also his last attack. Chu Yang coldly snorted. He couldn't avoid it. His long sword automatically jumped out with a clang. He was about to launch the Calamity Sword technique in the blink of an eye. It seemed that a head-on fight was unavoidable this time. Suddenly, a long whistle was heard, and a saber light crazily pierced between the two men. A black-clothed man's silhouette stood firmly in front of Chu Yang, and blocked the raging waves that were surging towards Chu Yang. Chu Yang suddenly felt an inexplicable warmth in his heart. He looked at the tall and straight figure in front of him. It seemed that, no matter what difficulties or hardships he faced, this figure would be able to block them. Chu Fei Ling didn't have it easy either. He forcibly released his energy, and finally arrived at this moment. He immediately faced the black-robed second brother's saber light, which had doubled in strength. He shouted loudly, and his big saber transformed into a green barrier to protect himself and Chu Yang. Then, he shook his wrist, and the life and death saber and the reincarnation sea were launched again. A blood-curdling scream was heard. The black-robed second brother was sent flying into the sky by the saber energy. Then, he suddenly disintegrated in the air, and turned into a bloody paste. Puff! 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 Chu Fei Ling's body swayed, and he finally stood firm. His shoulders, chest, and thighs were bleeding at the same time. In the end, this hasty attack still caused him to suffer a serious injury. If it weren't for saving Chu Yang, he could have calmly faced the enemy, and fought until the end. Then, he could have killed these 7 people one by one, and he could have ensured that his body wouldn't have any scars. However, he couldn't control his outburst when he saw that Chu Yang was in danger. He didn't regret it. Finally, the smell of blood in the air slowly dissipated. Chu Fei-ling turned around, and the cold murderous aura on his body had been completely withdrawn. He looked at Chu Yang, and revealed a pleasant smile. "Little brother, are you all right?" I'm fine." Chu Yang only felt a burst of excitement in his heart, and he almost couldn't speak. He was also puzzled by his own reaction. Why was he so agitated today? "You're injured?" Chu Yang suddenly felt a pain in his heart when he saw the flesh and blood on Chu Fei-ling's body. "It doesn't matter. This small injury is nothing to me." Chu Fei-ling sheathed his saber, and tied it around his waist like a belt. Then, he smiled plainly. Then, he took out a pill from his bosom, and was about to swallow it. He even smiled at Chu Yang. "I have this pill with me." Chu Yang forced a smile. Then, he suddenly realized something, and said, "Use my pill." He took out an incomplete version of the heavy pill, and handed it over to Chu Fei-ling. Chu Fei-ling stared blankly. He looked at Chu Yang's sincere face, and couldn't help but laugh heartily. He said, "Okay. I'll use your pill, little brother." Chu Fei-ling took it, and was about to swallow it when he smelled a strong fragrance. He felt as if his mind had suddenly become clear-headed, and his spirit had been greatly aroused when he smelled this fragrance. He couldn't help but be startled. This pill is absolutely not ordinary. What is the origin of this mysterious little brother? Not only can he kill a saber emperor with the cultivation of Sword King, but he also has such a miraculous pill with him. This pill is obviously a priceless treasure. Chu Fei-ling held the pill in his hand, and thought of his wife. She had been blaming herself ever since she lost her son 8 years ago. She had been depressed for 8 years, and had been depressed. She had developed a heartache over time. This pill, my injury is only a flesh wound. It would be a pity to take it. Why don't I take it back with me? Chu Fei-ling smiled somewhat embarrassedly. He took the pill and said, "Little brother, my injury is only a flesh wound. It will be fine after applying some external medicine. But I have another use for this pill of yours. Ha ha, I'm sorry to say this, but my wife has an old heartache problem. I want to take this pill back for her to take, ha ha." Chu Fei-ling was somewhat embarrassed. He gave you a pill out of kindness to heal your injury. But you want to hide it and take it back for your wife? Chu Fei-ling felt that it was somewhat unreasonable to say these words. It's too shameless. So what? Chu Yang waved his hand. I'll give you another one. Chu Yang generously took out another pill and gave it to Chu Fei-ling. This, how can I accept this? Chu Fei-ling was somewhat flabbergasted. Isn't this too generous? This is a panacea for healing injuries. How can you take it out one by one as if it's candy? Chu Yang waved his hand, and said without any heartache. Isn't it just 2 pills? If it's not enough, I have more here. To be honest, he didn't feel any heartache. He now had 2 kinds of miraculous pills in his hands. He had a lot of these incomplete heavy pills, and it wouldn't be troublesome to produce 8 or 10 of them. Thank you very much. Chu Fei-ling solemnly thanked him. This is the first time I've seen such a pill, even though I'm the leader of a clan in the upper 3 heavens. How can it be common goods? Chu Fei-ling thought for a while, and still couldn't bear to eat it. He carefully put away the 2 pills. He applied the golden sword medicine on himself. It wasn't that he didn't want to eat it. His father was injured and bedridden. He needed to nourish his body when he recovered. However, this part could not be mentioned again. To be able to make the other party give 2 medicinal pills, he already owed them 2 huge favors. Even if Chu Yang gave more, Chu Fei-ling would be too embarrassed to ask for more. Moreover, strictly speaking, Chu Yang saved me today. This means that I still owe him a life-saving grace. Chu Yang was somewhat speechless. You are really... I gave you 2 pills, but you didn't eat them? Chu Fei Ling smiled awkwardly. He was very embarrassed. The old handsome man's face was also somewhat red. Cough cough, my behavior is really a bit, but it's better than wasting them. Now that the Yi clan is dead, I don't have any threat in the upper 3 heavens. My injuries, why did they recover so quickly? After dressing up properly, Chu Fei Ling's wounds were also bandaged. Under Chu Fei Ling's flabbergasted gaze, Chu Yang rummaged through the flesh and blood of the Emperor-level expert. He didn't care about the filth at all, and put away some things based on the principle of not wasting things. He was worthy of being an Emperor-level expert. He had a lot of things on him. There were more than a dozen purple crystals. Chu Yang was somewhat satisfied in his heart. There are also a lot of elixirs. Now I can recoup my losses. How can the elixirs on an Emperor-level expert be ordinary? The two continued on their journey, but there were obviously more topics to talk about along the way. Well, Big Brother Chu, you must have something important to do in the upper 3 heavens. Otherwise, you wouldn't have attracted so many people to hunt you down. What is it? Chu Yang suddenly felt very awkward when he called out Big Brother Chu. He scolded himself in his heart. Damn it, what should I call him if not Big Brother Chu? Should I call him Uncle Chu? Fuck. I do have something to do. Chu Fei Ling's face was heavy. He heaved a long sigh. My father is injured. He needs to find elixirs to go back, alas. Speaking till here, he suddenly patted his forehead. He couldn't help laughing and said, I'm really muddle-headed. We have been together for so long, and I have received many favors from you. But I actually forgot to ask. Little brother, what's your name? Haha. Chu Ying's heart turned a few times like lightning. He finally smiled and said, It's a coincidence that we are actually from the same clan. My surname is also Chu. My name is Chu Yang. Your surname is also Chu. Chu Fei Ling was startled. Chapter 424. Your surname is also Chu? Chu Fei Ling was stunned. Was there such a coincidence? Yes, my name is Chu Yang. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He mischievously smiled and said, What a coincidence, right? What a coincidence! Chu Fei's heart surged. Could it be my son? She quietly released her aura to sense the purple crystal jade essence. But she didn't find anything. She only felt the purple crystal jade in Chu Yang's pocket. She had just robbed Yiran Mo. She couldn't help but sigh in self-mockery. She secretly scolded herself for being greedy. How could he be her son? What wishful thinking! This young man was extraordinarily heroic, resourceful, and resolute in his actions. Most importantly, he had a kind of demeanor that could only be cultivated by someone who had been in a high position for a long time. He was definitely from a great clan, and his background was definitely not ordinary. I miss my son. But I shouldn't have such delusions. My son has been abandoned in the lower 3 heavens since he was a child. I don't even know if he's dead or alive. Even if he's adopted, he won't be able to live a comfortable life. How could he grow up to be such a young hero? The two of them simply couldn't be compared. Thinking of this, Chu Fei sighed sadly. She was really going crazy from missing her son. What? It's hard to find the medicine. Chu Yang saw him sighing and asked with concern. It's not an ordinary difficulty. Chu Feizi looked at the raging fire mountain range in front of him, and said in a deep voice, If the raging fire mountain range doesn't exist, I'm afraid it doesn't exist. It's something that only exists in legends, so... Chu Yang was silent for a while. Then he asked, What medicine? Is it that hard to find? Chu Fei let out a long sigh. He thought of the gap between his son and the young man in front of him. He thought of the mess that his family was in. He thought of how his brothers had killed each other. He thought of the tragedy in his family, and how his wife was unhappy. Suddenly he lost interest and said, Let's look around. He actually avoided Chu Yang's question. He knew that since Chu Yang had asked this question, he was intending to help. But, He already owed him so many favors, how could he still have the nerve to accept his help? Chu Feizhen was also a proud and unyielding person. How could he allow himself to owe someone a favor endlessly? Chu Feizhi accelerated and rushed into the raging fire mountain range. Chu Yang frowned and followed him in. He used his consciousness to analyze the situation and said, "He must have come to the raging fire mountain range to look for a kind of extremely fierce fire attribute spirit medicine. This kind of medicine is extremely difficult to grow. So, I reckon that the possibility of finding it is not high." Chu Yang nodded and said, "That's right. Even elixirs are mostly plants. In such a hot place, I'm afraid that even a person would be roasted dry in half a day. What kind of plants can survive?" "That's right." The sword spirit heaved a long sigh and said, "I can see that you and he hit it off very well. You really want to help him. Why don't you let the sword point sense it? Who knows? Maybe you'll gain something." "Yes." Chu Yang nodded lightly. In the next moment, the tribulation carving scraper silently appeared on Chu Yang's fingertips. The two of them circled around the raging fire mountain range for a while, but Chu Feizi's expression became more and more gloomy. Right at this moment, Chu Yang suddenly felt the tip of the tribulation carving vibrate. The carving tip was clearly pointing to the east. Chu Yang's heart moved. He said, "Let's go over there and take a look." "All right." Chu Feiling nodded. The two of them moved as if they were flying. Chu Yang intentionally walked in front of Chu Feizi. They turned a corner, and a burst of faint medicinal fragrance suddenly came over. Chu Yang's spirit was lifted. But Chu Feizi's face exposed a disappointed look. "Mysterious young jade essence and mysterious young jade can't emit such fragrance." The two of them walked closer. They saw that a piece of land had miraculously appeared in the middle of the raging fire mountain. There was a small hole in the ground. It was only as big as the mouth of a bull. The medicinal fragrance was coming from this hole. The temperature here had reached a point where ordinary people couldn't bear it. Even a second-grade king-level expert like Chu Yang wouldn't be able to bear it if he didn't have the 7 shades cold energy on his body. What kind of medicine is inside? Chu Yang's eyes lit up. Chu Feizi smiled faintly and said, "I'll go and take it out. Then I'll give it to you." Then, he took a step forward. His palm emitted a purple saber light, and grabbed the hole. "Hey!" A large piece of iron-like purple-red stone was lifted up, and revealed a bigger hole. Chu Feizi's figure flashed into the hole like lightning. Chu Yang only heard a muffled groan from inside, followed by the sound of fighting. Then Chu Feizi flew out. One of his hands was holding a lump of purplish-red soil. It was emitting a suffocating heat. On the soil, there was a lilac crystal-clear Ganoderma lucidum. It was as if it was transparent. The strong medicinal fragrance was coming from this Ganoderma lucidum. The sword point vibrated rhythmically. It was obvious that it was very excited. Flaming purple crystal Lingji mushroom. The sword-scraping spirit sighed and said, "It looks like it's more than 3,000 years old. Its value will be immeasurable if it turns purple." Chu Yang laughed in his heart. He knew why the sword spirit had sighed. It was because this Lingji mushroom wasn't old enough. It was obvious that the sword spirit would have to use the sword-scraping spirit to accelerate its ripening. Chu Feiling's other hand was holding a strange silver-white snake. It was as thick as a wrist. Its 7 inches had been cut off by him. There's such a monster guarding the elixir inside. Its skin and flesh are very strong. Chu Feiling smiled and handed over the purple crystal Lingji mushroom. "Here you go, little brother." "You don't want it?" Chu Yang asked in astonishment. "Isn't this the elixir you're looking for?" "Yes, it isn't." Chu Feiling sighed and threw the purple crystal Ganoderma over. Then, he skillfully skinned and deboned the silver snake. He took out its inner core and said, "This is a rare star silver snake. Don't be fooled by its small size. It's at least a 7th-grade spirit beast. Its scales are invulnerable to swords and spears. Moreover, it can avoid energy attacks. Its inner core is formed in a raging fire, so it has a little pure yang energy. It may be of some use to my father's injury. I won't let you down. Chu Fei Ling neatly peeled off the scales and gave them a simple treatment. Then, he handed over the snake's body to Chu Yang. This snake's meat has a fire spirit source. If you eat some every day, it can increase your cultivation. This snake's skin can also be used to make a small waistcoat to cover the important parts. It can be regarded as a valuable treasure in the Jianghu. Chu Yang didn't refuse. He knew that Chu Fei Ling wasn't being polite to him. So, it would seem estranged if he refused. Chu Yang received these two things. Then, he couldn't help but ask. This purple crystal Lingji mushroom is a priceless treasure. Moreover, it's in the Raging Fire Mountain range. I'm afraid that there aren't many elixirs like this. What kind of elixir are you looking for? Is it so difficult to find? Yes, I've given up on this Raging Fire Mountain range after seeing the purple crystal Lingji mushroom. Because I'm afraid that the purple crystal Lingji mushroom won't grow here. Chu Fei Ling heaved a long sigh and said, Yes, my father is a monarch-level expert of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The cold blood poison can only be treated with the mysterious Yang Jade. Alas, it won't work here. It seems that I'll have to go somewhere else to try my luck. He only dared to pin his hopes on the mysterious Yang Jade. As for the mysterious Yang Jade, that's just a legend, okay? Chu Fei Ling looked at Chu Yang with some reluctance. He said in a heavy voice, Yes, little brother. I'll have to say goodbye to you after we leave the Raging Fire Mountain range. You take care of yourself. Cold blood poison? Chu Yang opened his eyes wide. Mysterious Yang Jade? Then, he suddenly slapped his thigh. Fuck. Why didn't you say so earlier? Chu Yang had never dreamt that the elixir that Chu Fei Ling had been looking for would be in his possession. Moreover, he had such a big pile of it. The sword spirit's face twitched in the tribulation space. He gnashed his teeth, squandering. I'm about to squander everything. Fuck. Do you think it's easy to get some mysterious Yang Jade? The sword spirit sighed sadly as he looked at the hill-like pile of mysterious Yang Jade in front of him. He had no choice but to take out 2 more pieces. Chu Fei's voice sounded in his mind. Take good ones. Take the heart, and at least the size of your fist. Chu Fei Ling's eyes became moist. This bastard. He's too generous. He endured the heartache, and broke off a small piece from his heart. He felt as if his heart was bleeding. However, he didn't know what Chu Yang was feeling in his heart. I have to be cautious. The injured one is likely to be my grandfather's generation. I don't know what to do with my family background, but I can't just stand by and watch someone die. What's more, I don't even know who this person in front of me is. There's someone in his family who's against him. What if the one who's against him is his real father? Then, I'll be in for a tragedy. I've just returned to my family, and I'm already on the road to the underworld. Chu Fei Ling was so excited that his face had turned red. He looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. Little brother, you. He wanted to ask, do you have mysterious Yang Jade? However, he was extremely afraid of being disappointed. So, he didn't dare to ask. However, his heart was beating faster and faster. In fact, it seemed as if it would jump out of his throat. Isn't it just mysterious Yang Jade? Young Master Chu played it down and said pretentiously, I thought it was something good. Look at how worried you are. Chu Fei Ling almost fainted. Listen, what are you talking about? Isn't it just mysterious Yang Jade? How can you talk like that? That's the most precious treasure of the Chongtian continent. Oh my God! Friend, you're saying you have it? Chu Feizi asked cautiously. Yes, I have a piece of mysterious Yang Jade here. I don't know if it's enough. Chu Yang turned his hand, and a pink and transparent piece of mysterious Yang Jade appeared in his palm. It was fist-sized. The high temperature in the surroundings seemed to recede as soon as he took it out. It became warm and comfortable. Chu Feizi's eyes went wide in an instant. His eyes were fixed on the core of the mysterious Yang Jade. He didn't even blink. In fact, he almost wept tears of joy at this moment. This is the life of an old father. Mysterious young jade core. All sorts of feelings welled up in Chu Fei's heart. I only need mysterious young jade. But this little brother has taken out so many mysterious young jade cores. This is such a big favor. This is such a great friendship. Chapter 425. Are these enough? Elder Brother Chu? Chu Yan had gotten used to calling him Elder Brother Chu. Yes, it's enough. It's absolutely enough. Chu Feiling's body trembled as he said. Actually, one piece is enough. These are too much. Chu Yang disagreed and said. Take them all. After all, this matter is of great importance. You can't be careless. It'll be troublesome if it's not enough. Chu Feiling excitedly extended his hand. But he suddenly retracted his hand and said with a stern look, Little brother, this mysterious young jade core is a priceless treasure. I won't feel at ease if I take it from you. You name a price, and I'll buy it. He smiled in a somewhat ashamed manner and said, Of course, no matter the price, it can't be compared to the true value of this mysterious young jade core. But, please give me a chance. Let my heart feel a little better. You're treating me as an outsider. Chu Yang smiled and said, We've gone through fire and water together. And it was you who stood in front of me at the critical moment. You're making me sad if you still want to talk about money with such a friendship. Chu Feiling was obviously excited. His eyes were somewhat red. He said in a hoarse voice, Thank you, little brother. He finally took the mysterious young jade core. He secretly made a decision in his heart. Little brother doesn't want any reward. But I won't treat him unfairly. The most important thing for a cultivator is the promotion of strength. And purple crystals play a big role in the promotion of strength. I can't come up with a lot of purple crystals. But the Chu clan can still come up with a few thousand purple crystals. And I'll use purple crystals to help little brother promote his strength when the time comes. It's worth it to pay a few thousand purple crystals for this love. It's worth it. Chu Feiling already had the mysterious young jade core in his hand. But he still felt like he was in a dream. This problem that has perplexed the entire clan has been solved just like that. Moreover, he's the first person I've found in these 3 days. And he's the only person I've found in order to act as a guide. But he has the mysterious young jade. Chu Feiling felt that his luck was very good. Both of them walked out of the raging fire mountain range as quickly as possible. They then found a shady place to sit down, and rested for a while. Little brother, may I ask where your master? Chu Feiling was in a good mood. So, he was in the mood to chat. Little brother, you must be from a big clan, right? My master's surname is Meng. Chu Yang chuckled. A complicated look flashed through his eyes as he said, As for my clan, it's indeed not small, ha ha ha, I guess so. If it were an ordinary clan, I'm afraid that they wouldn't have been able to cultivate such a talent like you. Chu Feiling sighed with emotion. He said enviously, Little brother's parents must be very happy to have a son like you. He sighed sadly as he spoke. Obviously, he was thinking about his missing son. My parents. Chu Yang was somewhat absent-minded. He let out a hollow laugh. Well, by the way, little brother, you and I feel like old friends at first sight. We treat each other with utmost sincerity. We get along very well. I also feel that little brother is a dragon among men. I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Chu Feiling suddenly became somewhat excited. What is it? Chu Yang asked in astonishment. Since you and I hit it off so well, how about we become sworn brothers? Chu Feiling said excitedly. Of course. Little brother, your future is limitless. Today I'll take it that you're out of my league. Chu Yang was dumbfounded. What? Become sworn brothers? You and I, can we become sworn brothers? Chu Yang swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He let out a hollow laugh. This isn't very good, right? You're an emperor-level expert, A big shot. Little brother, I'm going to get angry if you say this. Chu Fei Ling's face turned serious. He said unhappily. Could it be that little brother doesn't like me? No, 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 no. Chu Yang hurriedly waved his hand. I don't mean that. Do you think that I'm a burden? Chu Fei Ling pretended to be angry. No, no, no. Chu Yang stammered. His forehead was almost sweating. Great master, can you not play with me like this? Oh God, what do you want me to do? Then, can you give me a reason why you don't want to become sworn brothers with me? Chu Fei Ling didn't give up. Chu Yang was at a loss. Oh God, what should I say? Chu Yang had lived 2 lives. But he had never been so distressed. He had never been in such a dilemma. No reason? Then, what do you have to worry about? Chu Fei Ling smiled with relief. Besides, this is only between us brothers. It has nothing to do with your clan. Of course, if little brother thinks highly of me, you can go to the Chu clan of the upper 3 heavens when you have time. Chu Yang's face was full of black lines. He was speechless. On the other side, Chu Fei Ling's movements were very fast. He had already set up the altar. Then, he patted Chu Yang's shoulder and laughed. Brother, come! Chu Yang wasn't prepared. He was slapped to the ground and knelt down. He only felt a mess in his heart. But, he couldn't give any reason. This feeling was very strange. The heavens above and the earth below. Today I, Chu Fei Ling, and Chu Yang are sworn brothers. Cough, sworn brothers. From now on, we will share our blessings. If my brother is in trouble, I will bear the burden. The heavens and the earth will bear witness. Chu Fei Ling's expression was solemn. Chu Yang had already fainted. He was in a daze. He didn't know what he had done. Chu Fei Ling saw that he was in a trance. So, he couldn't help but pat him on the back. Oh. Chu Yang was confused. He kowtowed a few times. Then, he stood up and saw Chu Fei Ling looking at him with gratification. Young Master Chu's mind was in a daze. He suddenly sobered up. This is bad. He couldn't help but want to cry. What the fuck is going on? Brother! Chu Fei Ling looked at him with concern. Your complexion is very bad. Ha ha! Chu Yang didn't cry or laugh. He just grinned. Chu Fei Ling was in a very good mood. He smiled and said, Today is really the lucky day of my life. Not only have I found a good brother who is worthy of being friends with me, but I'm also indebted to you for your generous gift. I've also obtained the most valuable treasure in the world, mysterious young jade core, which can cure my father's illness. I've put down a big stone in my heart. He heaved a long sigh and said, I won't hide it from you. I haven't been so happy for 18 years. Alas, I can't bear to look back on the past. My heart feels like it's being cut by a knife. All sorts of feelings welled up in Chu Fei Ling's heart as he recalled his experiences in the past 18 years. He had always buried these worries in his heart. He had never had the opportunity to pour them out to anyone. He was very emotional today because he had found a brother. Moreover, this brother obviously had nothing to do with his clan. So, he couldn't help but want to pour out his grievances. Chu Yang's sluggish eyes turned numbly as he said, Don't tell me, you still have some hidden troubles? It's hard to say, ha ha. Chu Fei Ling laughed bleakly. He shook his head and sighed. I won't hide it from you, brother. My life has been worse than death for the past 18 years. My heart feels like it's being twisted by a knife every night. My soul feels like it's being torn apart. Chu Yang seemed to have sensed something. The corners of his mouth twitched as he said, I'd like to hear the details. I was just about to pour my heart out to you. Chu Fei Ling heaved a long sigh. This painful matter has been in my heart for the past 18 years. I've never forgotten it. He exhaled deeply. His eyes seemed to be looking at empty space as he said, I remember that my Chu clan encountered a great crisis 18 years ago. At that time, my child had just been born. His grandmother missed her grandson, so she invited us over. My wife and I took the child and stayed there for a period of time. Chu Yang's eyes widened. His throat made some noises. His heart was heavy as he repeatedly complained. Motherfucker, motherfucker, what is this? How can there be such a disgraceful thing in the world? I've become sworn brothers with my grandmother. This is really... Chu Fei Ling had already sunk into painful memories. A month later, your sister-in-law and I returned from my father-in-law's house with the child in our arms. But we were suddenly besieged by strong enemies on the way back. 2 of our guards were killed on the spot. They risked their lives to save us. Then we fled, but the enemies chased us all the way. We couldn't return to the Chu clan. The enemies had dispatched a large number of people for that attack. If we returned to the clan rashly, I'm afraid we would be killed. Chu Fei Ling sighed. We had no choice but to hide everywhere with the child in our arms. But we were chased by the enemies until we had nowhere to go. Seeing that we were in imminent danger, we happened to reach the entrance of the double heavens. We had no choice but to bring the child to the lower 3 heavens. But the enemies chased after us relentlessly. They chased us down and fought several fierce battles. The 2 of us were no match for them at all. We desperately rushed out several times, and escaped all the way to the lower 3 heavens. It was a snowy night. Chu Fei Ling's eyes glistened with tears. Chu Yang seemed to have felt the chill of that windy and snowy night. He quivered and shuddered. That night, we were finally chased to the end of the road. I was seriously injured and didn't have long to live. My wife also suffered 7 or 8 serious injuries. Even her left leg was broken. Chu Fei Ling sighed sadly. At that time, we knew that it would be difficult for us to escape death. But our child was still young. How could he suffer the same fate as us? But we were in the lower 3 heavens at that time. We had no relatives and it was late at night. We ran all the way. We didn't know where we were. We only knew that we were in the forest. Finally, when we saw a dilapidated temple, we were already on the verge of death. My wife and I had no choice but to put our child in the temple. Then, we wrapped a stone in our arms and continued to run. We wanted to lure the enemies away so that our child could have a chance to survive. Chu Fei Ling's voice was sorrowful and trembling. It was as if he had returned to that cold, snowy night 18 years ago. Chu Yang, who was listening at the side, only felt a burst of bitterness in his heart. He couldn't help but feel a lump in his throat. 2 streams of tears fell down. The 2 of us continued to run for our lives. In order to divert the enemy's attention, we jumped down the cliff with that stone. Chu Fei Ling smiled bitterly and said, "But we didn't expect that there would always be a way out. We were only able to jump down a few hundred feet before we were stopped. It turned out that the vines there had grown for a long time and formed a big net, which saved us. Then, we found a rare treasure on the cliff, the snow lotus of elegance." Chapter 426. Snow Lotus of Elegance. Chu Yang muttered to himself unconsciously. Yes, it's Snow Lotus of Elegance. There are 2 flowers of Snow Lotus of Elegance, one black and one white. One is yin and the other is yang. Yin and yang complement each other. It can cure chronic diseases, cure terminal illnesses, increase martial power, and break through bottlenecks. Chu Fei Ling said. My wife and I each took half of it. Our injuries were healed in a short time. Moreover, our martial power improved greatly. Both of us broke through to 2nd grade emperor level. It's a blessing in disguise. Chu Yang sighed deeply. A blessing in disguise, haha. Chu Fei Ling smiled bitterly and said, My wife and I felt that our injuries were healed. So, we immediately rushed back. We killed more than a dozen enemies who were chasing us along the way. We didn't even have time to interrogate them. We rushed to that ruined temple, but the child was gone. Chu Fei Ling's voice was filled with grief. The child is gone. Chu Yang muttered to himself blankly. He suddenly felt that the hatred towards his family and his parents for abandoning him had disappeared at this moment. Both of us went crazy. We kept looking for him. We even searched the nearby mountains. But we didn't find him. We returned to the upper three heavens after a long time. But that poor child has always been in our hearts for the past 18 years. It's as if a thorn has grown in our hearts. My wife missed him day and night. She looked haggard. Her martial power hasn't improved in the past 18 years. Instead, she fell from second-grade emperor level to first-grade emperor level. She even suffered from chronic chest pain. The entire clan treated us as a laughingstock. My father-in-law and mother-in-law viewed us as enemies. All these years, Chu Feiling sighed sadly. All these years, how can the word bitter be enough to describe it? Chu Yang was completely dumbfounded. There was no doubt that this person in front of him, this sworn brother of his, was his biological father. Chu Feiling sighed and turned his head. But he saw that Chu Yang's face was streaked with tears. He couldn't help but be startled. Brother, what happened to you? Boo-hoo! I'm so moved. Chu Yang wiped his tears and revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Chu Yang's heart was tangled. He now had a strong impulse to immediately rush up and hug him, and tell this man who had suffered so much all these years, I am your son. I am the son you lost 18 years ago. But, damn it! But he couldn't. Especially, the two of them had just become sworn brothers. Moreover, it was half forced by Chu Feiling. If Chu Feiling were to tell him the truth now, he would probably die of shame before he could even be surprised. Heavens, I forced myself to become sworn brothers with my own son? Who could stand such a thing? More importantly, I still have a heavy responsibility on my shoulders. I have the responsibility of being the master of Calamity Sword. I have to save Xiao Wu. If I return to my ancestry now, I will continue to unify the lower three heavens. And I am afraid that my identity as the master of Calamity Sword will be exposed. Of course, he could trust his parents. But the problem was, the Chu family wasn't as united as before. Who knew who had ulterior motives in the clan? No matter who it was, if his identity as the master of the Calamity Sword was exposed, he would implicate the entire Chu clan and cause them to disappear. Acknowledging a son but causing the destruction of the clan was not a great joy, but a great sorrow. If he didn't give any reason for staying in the lower three heavens to develop, he was afraid that this old Wu and his mother would swallow him alive. At the very least, they would send a few experts to protect him. But how could the experts of the Chu clan hide from the eyes and ears of the big dominant clans? Wouldn't this be akin to exposing himself? Chu Yang was very conflicted. Sword Spirit, is there a way to cure this chest pain? Chu Yang asked the Sword Spirit in his mind anxiously. Chest pain? The Sword Spirit snorted. What kind of illness is this? It's just a knot of longing that causes the meridians to be blocked. That's all. Then, can it be cured with the complete version of the heavy pill? Chu Yang asked expectantly. That's my mother. Even if I can't acknowledge her for the time being, I have to make sure she's fine. Big brother, there's no need for that, right? The Sword Spirit shrieked. The incomplete version of the heavy pill has already cured this problem to the best of its ability. Using the complete version of the heavy pill is a complete waste of God's gift. That's a treasure that can raise one's cultivation by a whole realm. You can't continue to squander like this. No matter how rich our family is, it can't withstand such torment. The Sword Spirit was so heartbroken that he was about to cry. This is the most precious medicine in the entire lower three heavens. It's not a cabbage on the roadside. Even if it's a Supreme Being level expert, it'll still have a great effect after taking it. Raise one's cultivation by a whole realm? Chu Yang's eyes lit up. That's great. It can increase my mother's ability to protect herself. The Sword Spirit slapped his own mouth in regret. My mouth is so cheap. Why did I say this? Raise one's cultivation by a whole realm. Why didn't you say so earlier? Chu Yang asked in puzzlement. That can only be used by Emperor-level experts and above. With your current cultivation, I can only store the medicinal efficacy after taking it. Otherwise, you'll turn into a pile of feces. The sword spirit snorted angrily. Eh? Chu Yang excitedly raised his eyebrows. Then, he suddenly thought of something. I have to help the old man improve a bit. Otherwise, I won't be at ease with him being surrounded by danger every day. Can I have 2 heavy pills? Chu Yang asked. Then I won't have Mo Ching Wu's. The sword spirit rolled his eyes. This guy is addicted to squandering. Nonsense! Chu Yang said angrily. We have Jade Snow Spirit Ginseng, Mysterious Ice Jade Paste, Mysterious Yang Jade Essence, and Vitality Spring Water. There are so many elixirs. Now, we also have Sea of Flame Purple Crystal Ganoderma. So, it should be easy to produce several heavy pills, right? How can it not be enough? The sword spirit was so distressed that his whole body shivered. Can I call you Lord Sword Lord? Lord Sword Lord. This is a great waste. This is an unforgivable sin. Listen to me. Let's do it, Chu Yang said in an overbearing manner. We can only produce 1 pill at most. We can only use a little bit of the mysterious ice jade paste and mysterious yang jade essence. The sword spirit bargained with a firm look on his face. He didn't yield an inch. Otherwise, I'd rather die. Only 1 pill at a time. Minister Chu gave in. Is there anything else? The sword spirit saw that this guy was still hesitating to speak. So, he couldn't help but get angry. I have to give them 2 weapons so that they can protect themselves, Chu Yang said with a greedy face. You also saw that the saber is a little soft. It's not very useful. I've already prepared it, the sword spirit angrily said. I knew that you would trouble me the moment I saw you crying over there. So, I made them for you in advance. Take them. With a clang, he threw out a sword and a saber. You're a good person, Minister Chu said in a grateful manner. I would have given myself to you if you were a woman. I would have taken you as my wife. Get out of here! The sword spirit shivered and goosebumps appeared all over his body. He was a spirit, but he still felt his hair stand on end at this moment. There's one more thing. Can you make a few pills that can perfectly conceal one's strength, and prevent others from seeing through one's cultivation? I owe you. The sword spirit looked up and sighed. Chu Yang proudly withdrew from his sea of thoughts. He opened his eyes, and saw Chu Fei Ling in front of him. Chu Fei Ling was examining him with a concerned look on his face. Brother, wake up! Brother, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Why did my brother suddenly become absent-minded? I can't wake him up. Chu Yang quivered, and woke up. He awkwardly coughed a few times. Now that he heard these brothers calling him with such sincerity, Minister Chu felt uncomfortable all over. Even his crotch felt as if his balls were being pulled. I can't keep calling you like this. My lifespan will be shortened, father. Well, I'm thinking, your real strength should be at Saber Emperor grade, right? Chu Yang smacked his lips and said, Why haven't you thought of breaking through to Saber Monarch grade? Breaking through to Saber Monarch grade? Chu Fei Ling shook his head and sighed. How can it be so easy to break through to Monarch grade? Brother, you don't know that breaking through from Emperor grade to Monarch grade isn't as simple as breaking through from Revered grade to King grade. It requires the world's essence energy, one's own cultivation, chance coincidences, and comprehension of the state of mind. None of these can be missing. Chu Yang nodded repeatedly and said sincerely, This, today, that, since you've acknowledged that, little brother, no, that. I have a gift for you. Chu Yang didn't know what to say. How to address himself. How to address him. These are all problems. Moreover, they are big problems. Call him big brother? Call himself little brother? Chu Yang's legs cramped just thinking about it. Let alone calling him that. Yes, Minister Chu was used to being lawless. But he didn't dare to be careless in this matter. Motherfucker. This is no joke. Why do you need a gift? As your elder brother, I should be the one to give you a gift for our first meeting. What you said really makes me feel ashamed. Chu Fei Ling waved his hand. He felt strange in his heart. Why is this brother of mine suddenly stuttering? He said sincerely. Brother! Good brother! What you've given me is enough for me to repay you with my whole life. I can help you break through to monarch grade today. Chu Yang made up his mind and cut the Gordian knot. Ah? Chu Feiling was shocked. Eat this. Chu Yang took out a pill. Chu Feiling didn't have time to see what it was before he stuffed it into his mouth. It melted in his mouth. He felt a lingering fragrance in his mouth. His limbs and bones felt extremely comfortable. At the same time, a hot current and a cold current alternated in his dantian. They spiraled and rushed up in joy. At the same time, his head suddenly became ice cold. A sense of great meaning that he had never come into contact with suddenly rushed into his mind and surged in his mind. Chapter 427. At the same time, the meridians in his body suddenly opened up. Waves of tyrannical but warm spiritual energy of the world rushed into his body from every pore. It seemed as if a huge magnet had formed in his body, attracting the spiritual energy of the world to gather in his body. The impurities in his body were also discharged at this moment. Chu Feiling turned pale with fright. He hurriedly calmed himself down and sat down. He faced the sky with his palms and palms facing the sky. He tried his best to digest this sudden great fortune. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This brother is really impatient. He stuffed it into my mouth. However, he also knew that this was purely out of Chu Yang's good intentions. If he had given it to him, he wouldn't have accepted such a valuable gift. This was a heavenly treasure that had never been heard of before. The spiritual energy of the world and the medicinal efficacy rushed towards the bottleneck of the monarch level like stormy waves. The next moment, Chu Feiling felt that the unbreakable bottleneck of the monarch level that he had attacked many times had suddenly loosened. He didn't have time to be surprised when another stormy wave of energy rushed over. The bottleneck of the monarch level was suddenly opened. Then, the spirit chi in his meridians was like a tide breaking through a dam. Cheering and jumping, the spirit chi fiercely rushed out, unimpeded all the way. Breakthrough? Breakthrough like this? The breakthrough that I'd been dreaming of, came so suddenly and without any preparation? Then, Chu Feiling opened his eyes wide. The spiritual energy has become more and more turbulent after the breakthrough. It has become more and more powerful. It rushed through his meridians at lightning speed for 10 cycles. Then, it rushed towards the bottleneck of the second stage monarch level. Damn! Chu Feiling's face turned red with excitement. Isn't this too big of a surprise? The bottleneck of a second-grade monarch level expert couldn't withstand the impact of that surging spirit energy flow. Then, that spirit energy flow continued to spiral in his meridians. In fact, the medicinal efficacies were still violently rushing out of his dantian, and formed a new power. Chu Feiling was shocked to the point of speechlessness. Third stage, fourth stage. It rushed to the peak of the fourth stage before it finally stopped. Then, his dantian became calm again. As if nothing had happened, Chu Feiling exhaled a long breath of foul air. He stood up and walked 2 steps. Then, he shook his arms and his vitality gushed out like a tide. The impurities that had been forced out of his body turned into powder in an instant. He shook his body and all the powder fell to the ground. He had broken through. Moreover, Chu Feiling clearly felt that this elixir not only allowed him to break through, but also allowed him to comprehend some of the meaning of the great Tao. What was even more strange was that it actually completely improved his spiritual realm. He had advanced by an entire realm. In other words, his state of mind had originally been at the Saber Emperor grade. However, it was now at the Saber Monarch grade. What did this mean? Chu Feiling was so excited that his whole body was trembling. This means that I only need to accumulate martial power, and I can smoothly reach the level of Saber Monarch. Furthermore, there wouldn't be any bottlenecks in this process. He turned his head and fixed his gaze on Chu Yang. His eyes were full of excitement. Suddenly, he clasped his hands and bowed to the ground. He then sincerely said, "Brother, I can't thank you enough for your kindness. Big brother, I really can't say any words of thanks." Tears flickered in Chu Fei Ling's eyes as he said this. Yes, this kind of great kindness was something that couldn't be expressed in words. Words couldn't express the weight of this friendship at all. Chu Yang was startled. He looked at his father's buttocks as he bowed in front of him. His scalp almost exploded. He hurriedly dodged to one side and spoke incoherently. What's this for? What's this for?" Chu Fei Ling straightened up and patted Chu Yang's shoulder. He took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the excitement in his heart. Then, he solemnly said, "Good brother!" Chu Yang grinned and laughed awkwardly. "Well, by the way, that was just food. It's not a gift." Chu Yang stretched out his hand and pulled out a saber and a sword from his black robe. "This is for you." The saber's body was slender, and it shone with a cold light. It fell on the ground, and half of it was inserted into the extremely hard ground that had been burned by the raging fire for thousands of years. It flickered under the sunlight, and reflected thousands of rays of cold light. The sword's body was delicate, and its shape was graceful. It was also inserted into the ground. It was obviously tailor-made for a woman. "How can this be?" "Absolutely not!" Chu Fei Ling repeatedly waved his hands. His face and neck were red. "If you continue like this, I'll leave. I don't have the face to stay here." His heart was moved to the point of no return. This sworn brother is really good. But isn't this a little too enthusiastic? Why does he act like he's emptying his belongings and throwing out these treasures without any regard for his own life? Even if we're sworn brothers, you can't be so generous, right? Chu Fei Ling also wanted to take out something in return. But when he looked at each item that Chu Yang took out, he sadly discovered that he couldn't take out anything. "It's too embarrassing. These aren't for you. Why are you so anxious?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, "This saber is for you. As for that sword is for fur. Chu Yang said for a long time, but didn't dare to say, "It's for sister-in-law." He actually wanted to say, "It's for my mother." But he didn't dare to. It's for madam." Chu Yang sweated. "Ah? You're even giving it to her?" Chu Fei Ling sighed repeatedly. "Brother, you're too considerate." Then, his face turned serious, and his expression became resolute. "Then, I can't accept it even more." "What? You're looking down on me." Chu Yang simply threw a tantrum. "Either you take it away, or don't acknowledge me as your. Minister Chu wanted to slap his own mouth a few times. "Damn it, it's too difficult to speak today. I used to have a glib tongue, and I didn't bend my back when I challenged the world. But today, I can't even speak a complete sentence." "Okay." Chu Fei Ling sighed emotionally. "Anyway, one doesn't feel itchy when one has too many lice, and one doesn't have to worry when one has too many debts. I already owe enough. So I'll just owe more." "That's right. I don't know if this sword, that person, will madam like it?" Chu Yang obviously had a stuttering problem. "You're still calling her madam?" Chu Fei Ling rebuked. "That's your sister-in-law." Minister Chu's forehead was full of sweat. He wiped it again and again, and his little face turned green. "Brother, are you feeling hot?" Chu Fei Ling asked with concern. Yes, very hot. The weather is really hot. Really hot." Chu Yang was in a difficult situation. The matter is done. I should go back." Chu Fei Ling looked at Chu Yang with some reluctance. He was somewhat anxious to return home. His old father was still lying in bed. How could he not be anxious? Besides, he couldn't stay here any longer. In front of this little brother, Chu Fei Ling clearly felt that he was shorter by a head. Always accepting other people's gifts, this isn't a good thing. It's really strange. Usually, you can't see the world's rare treasures and divine weapons in the upper three heavens. But this time, you can actually bring back a lot of them. Wait. Chu Yang hurriedly stopped him. You haven't taken away the filial piety I showed to my mother. Why are you in such a hurry? Is there anything else? Chu Feiling looked at him in surprise. There's also this. Chu Yang took out a small bottle made of purple crystal from his bosom. Inside there was a spinning elixir. This is a special elixir for treating heart colic. If you take it back, not only can it clear away the chronic disease, but it can also increase your cultivation. It's the same as the one you just ate. Cough, cough, I wanted to give you more, but I don't have much left. Chu Feiling was really shocked. Another one? But this one. I must have it. This concerns my wife's health. I must take it no matter what. But this elixir is so precious. Please tell Madam that there's no need to worry. She should relax. Her son will be found. Maybe her son is a young hero now. He's shining with heroism. Cough, cough. Chu Jiang said shamelessly. Besides, children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. This is also his life's chance. You should know that one can only rise above others after suffering. Maybe her son will be able to go home by himself someday. I hope so. Chu Feiling heaved a deep sigh and said, If my family's little dog can be half as good as you. If it can be 10 or 20% as good as you, my wife and I won't have any regrets in our lives. Little dog? The corner of Minister Chu's mouth twitched. He must be very promising. Moreover, he must be handsome and confident. He must be handsome and elegant. He must be young and promising. He must have a demeanor and temperament. Young ladies will be dazzled the moment they see him. Young Master Chu's face was very red, but he still spoke very fluently. Young Master Chu kept hypnotizing himself in his heart as he spoke these words, I'm Tan Tan, I'm Tan Tan. Thank you for your auspicious words, brother. Chu Feiling carefully put away the purple crystal bottle in his bosom. He held a saber in one hand and a sword in the other. He also held the mysterious Yang Jade core and 2 incomplete heavy elixirs in his bosom. He was ready to return home from a rewarding journey. Hold on. Chu Yang remembered. You must remember to keep these things a secret. Don't leak them out, I know this. Hee. Chu Feiling cleverly smiled. Wouldn't my brother be in endless trouble if someone were to find out about this? Don't worry. Only you and I will know about this matter. That's good. That's good. Chu Yang heaved a sigh of relief. Brother, I'm going back now. Chu Feiling tightly grasped Chu Ying's hand and shook it vigorously. You must not forget your brother. You must come to the Chu clan if you go to the upper 3 heavens. That's for sure, for sure. Chu Yang nodded repeatedly. Chu Yang wanted to shake his head whenever he heard the words brother and elder. There's also this pill. It can shield your aura after you take it. So, people won't be able to see your cultivation. Chu Yang looked at Chu Feiling as he walked away. Chu Yang was reluctant to part with him. Chapter 428. Chu Yang didn't know whether to cry or laugh. He threw himself on the ground, and pounded the ground with his hands. Oh my God! Oh my God! You're finally gone. I'm dying of suffocation. What is this, big brother? Chu Yang cried, laughed, and screamed for a long time. He vented his emotions hysterically for a while. Then, he got up and looked at the surrounding scenery. He felt strange and lost. He suddenly felt empty in his heart. It seemed that he was missing something, but also seemed to have gained something. In short, his mood was extremely strange. After a long time, he sat up. He supported his chin with his hands and was lost in thought. His mind was in a mess. It seemed that thousands of things were running through his mind at the same time. But he didn't have any specific thoughts. You're finally complete. The sword spirit in his mind sighed. Congratulations, Tribulation Sword Master. Your inner demons are gone. What's left is only some obsession. Complete? Chu Yang was stunned. He asked subconsciously. That's right. Being abandoned by your parents has always been your inner demon. Although you've never said it, but this deep hatred has always been in your heart. Perhaps you haven't realized it yourself, but every time you see someone else in front of your parents, you'll always feel jealous. So, you're jealous of everyone, the sword spirit said ruthlessly. You didn't accept Wu Qian for this reason. This hatred can only be resolved by your parents. No one else can resolve it for you. If you keep this hatred, your inner demons will burn you to ashes when you reach the saint level and become a supreme martial artist. The sword spirit sighed in relief and said, But even I didn't expect that your inner demons would be resolved so early this time. Well, sword spirit, do you think it's right for me to not acknowledge them now? Chu Yang had always been brooding. His parents had suffered for 18 years because of him. Even 10,000 heavy pills couldn't heal the pain in his mother's heart for the past 18 years. Chu Yang felt sad when he thought about their lives for the past 18 years. So, he was much luckier than his parents. Although he was an orphan, he had a master. Moreover, he had always been full of hatred for this matter. There was no doubt that the days full of hatred were much better than the days full of despair filled with love. That was because his mother's heart had been torn apart and bleeding for the past 18 years. How could an ordinary person endure that kind of pain? Yes. This is absolutely right, the sword spirit said with infinite certainty. Don't think that you're unfilial because you didn't acknowledge your parents. In fact, you'll be the greatest unfilial if you acknowledge them now. Filial. Unfilial. Chu Yang muttered. Tribulation Sword Master. The entire celestial layer is a responsibility that you cannot abandon. Even if you don't want to, fate will push you to complete it. The sword spirit said slowly. You don't have the ability to protect your family right now. Even if you don't do anything after you return to your family, there will be people who will investigate the origins of the Chu family's first young master. You're a disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect. You're an orphan, and you've transformed into King of Hell Chu. Then, you've become a sword king from an ordinary martial artist within a year and a half. Everything will be dug up. When the time comes, when the great dominating clans look for the Calamity Sword Master, the first person they suspect will be you. The sword spirit said, even if they can't be sure that you are the master of Calamity Sword, they would rather kill 10,000 people than miss a single person. Because the Calamity Sword Master has too much influence on them. They definitely wouldn't mind destroying an innocent Chu family. Sword Spirit sighed softly. You haven't come into contact with the big clans. So, you still don't know how formidable and huge your opponents are. I only want to ask you this. Diwu Qingro is only a person sent by the Zhuge clan of the big clans. Is he difficult to deal with? Very difficult to deal with. Chu Yang nodded and admitted. His mood also became heavy. Diwu Qingrou's fierceness can't be described with the word difficult. So, let's find the fourth fragment as soon as possible. Sword Spirit sighed and said, The only way is to find the fourth fragment of the Calamity Sword and improve your strength as soon as possible. Then, you can hide from the heavenly secrets. Let's take it one step at a time. Chu Jiang pondered and said slowly, I want to know what will happen if I acknowledge my ancestors and return to the clan, and give up the responsibility of being the Calamity Sword Master? You can't give it up. The consequence of that would be, the great clans would destroy the Chu clan and kill all your family members. You would be forced to walk the path of the Calamity Sword Master in order to take revenge. These are two paths. You can choose one. The sword spirit sneered. Chu Yang was stunned for a while. Then he spat and said, Fuck. I'll just hand over the Calamity Sword. I won't be the Calamity Sword Master anymore, okay? You think I'll hand it over just because you said so? Sword Spirit snorted mockingly. Why are you so capable? If you really do that, the Chu family will still have no way to survive. You should still be the Calamity Sword Master. Unless you die again. Chu Yang's hair stood on end. He hung his head and said dejectedly, Forget it. I won't acknowledge it first, the key is strength. Sword Spirit said lightly, If you have strength, you can acknowledge it. If you don't, you can hold it in. Hold it in for the time being, Lord Sword Master. Chu Yang was furious. He glared and said, If not, I'll beat you up. If not for the fact that you can't beat me, you'll beat me up. Sword Spirit laughed weirdly. Chu Yang had given away so many treasures today. Sword Spirit was very distressed. How could he not take advantage of this opportunity to hit him when he was down? Chu Yang coldly snorted. He patted his buttocks and stood up. He suddenly felt very good for some reason. He ignored Sword Spirit and walked forward in big strides. He was as light as a feather, as if he wanted to ride the clouds. He couldn't help but sing loudly as he walked. It was the song Jianghu rode. This journey, I won't look back from mountains of knives and seas of fire. This journey, I'll die on the Jianghu road. This journey, I'll laugh proudly at the world from now on. This journey, I'll go straight to the clouds without looking back. This journey, I'll defy the heavens from now on. This journey, I'll make fate reincarnate. This journey, I'll accompany you to dance and laugh at the world of mortals. This journey, I'll overturn the heavens. Chu Yang sang loudly all the way. He was like a gust of wind blowing across the ground. He saw a dense forest in front of him. Chu Yang sang excitedly, and rushed into it. Suddenly, a broken gong-like voice cursed. Oh, dog ant. Which pervert is that howling? Motherfucker. He disturbed Second Master Ji's mood of taking a dump. He must be courting death. Chu Yang was startled. Then, a meaningful smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. Then, he suddenly flew into a rage. Oh, dog ant. Motherfucker. Second Master Ji was so depressed about snatching his wife that a punching bag was sent over. A thin guy came out of the forest with a strange cry. He was holding his pants while tying his belt. His nostrils were raised to the sky as he walked out of the forest. He stood in the middle of the road in an imposing manner. Then he dragged out a long cry. Which be asterisk tch is it? Chu Yang snorted and slowly walked over. He put on a fake smile and said, Oh my, isn't this Second Master Ji? Second Master Ji, you're really overbearing. Of course. Second Master Ji has always been famous in these 3 days, GMO said disdainfully with his nose up in the air. Then, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It seemed that this voice was a little familiar. He hurriedly opened his eyes and lowered his head to look. Then, he suddenly screamed as if he had seen a ghost. His legs left the ground, and he spasmed as if he had been electrocuted. My mother, why is it you? It's me. What's wrong? Chu Yang crossed his arms and sneered sinisterly. Second Master Ji, are you going to blame me for disturbing your bowel movements? Ayaya. Jimo's face suddenly turned bitter. It was so bitter that juice could drip out of it. Even his nose and eyes were squeezed together. Then, he rolled his eyes and put on a flattering smile on his face. Then, he ran over while jolting his buttocks. He nodded and bowed. Then, he said flatteringly, Oh my! I was wondering who it was. Your singing is so beautiful and moving. It's like the heavenly music lingering in the heavens. It's rare to hear such a thing in this world. I'm really intoxicated. He shook his head and made a circle in an intoxicated manner. Then, he continued to flatter. I was so shocked that I hurriedly came out to greet this almighty person. I really didn't expect this. GMO immediately put on an extremely shocked and admiring expression. Then, he said, I'm so shocked at this moment. So, it's my big brother. My dear big brother. Oh, big brother Chu, I really admire you. I admire you so much that I prostrate myself on all fours. My admiration for you is like a torrential river. Then, he put on a stern face and pretended to be unhappy. But big brother, you're too much. You actually hid your talent to such an extent. If I didn't happen to hear it, who would be so lucky to hear such a beautiful, deep, manly and heroic singing voice again? Then, He rubbed his hands and ran over. He was extremely enthusiastic. Big brother. Oh, I miss you so much. Big brother, my dear big brother. Chu Yang's whole body was covered with goosebumps. He instantly shivered and his thighs started to spasm. He couldn't help but send a flying kick over. In the blink of an eye, Second Master Ji had already turned around and stuck out his but with a flattering look on his face. Big brother, please calm down. Kick here. I just wiped my butt. It's very clean. Hee hee. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He put down his foot. Forget it, I forgive you. Motherfucker, you disgusted me to death. GMO cheered and rushed over. He hugged Chu Yang's neck and cheered. Wahahaha. Big brother, you're finally here. And you've come at such a crucial moment. Right at the crucial moment when I'm about to snatch my wife. This is really timely. Oh, dog ant. Chapter 429. Let go. Chu Yang angrily threw him aside and said, What's going on? Heh heh. GMO immediately let go of his hands around his neck, but immediately hugged his arm affectionately. His face was full of excitement. Obviously, he hadn't woken up from the pleasant surprise of being reunited after a long time. He giggled foolishly for a while before coming back to his senses. Boss, when did you come? I just arrived, not more than 4 or 5 days ago. Chu Yang glared at him. Chu Yang awkwardly tried to pull his arm away, but this guy was hugging him so tightly that he couldn't pull it out. GMO hugged Chu Yang's arm like this, raised his face, and led Chu Yang inside with a silly smile. Step by step, Chu Yang was full of energy. You haven't said it yet. Chu Yang struggled with all his might, and finally pulled his arm out. Motherfucker, his skin had been rubbed red. What do you mean by snatching a wife? I heard that you snatched Gao Xing's wife? It can't be. Yes. GMO suddenly woke up as if from a dream, and remembered this matter. He jumped in front of Chu Yang, and raised his hands and shouted. Oh, dog ant! Boss, I found my own spring. Chu Yang's face darkened. He couldn't bear to look at this guy's current appearance. He looked like a monkey in heat. Found your spring. Chu Yang thought of Huyen Aobo's tall and sturdy appearance, and then looked at GMO who was jumping up and down in front of him. He compared the size of the two in his mind, and couldn't help but feel dizzy. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. That Huyen? Miss? Yes. GMO excitedly clapped his hands, and made a loud clap sound. He was beaming with joy, and his eyes were full of longing. Boss, I remember that time you said that whenever you see a girl you love, your heart will beat faster, and you will feel that the cold wind is intoxicating, the sun is bright, the world is colorful, and the flowers are more fragrant. I am. He let out a happy sigh. Ever since I met her, I've truly understood that love still exists in this world of mortals. Love! This is such a sacred word. Ah, my love! Ah, my spring! Ah! Chu Yang couldn't bear it anymore. So, he kicked this guy's ass, and sent him flying. Get lost! Don't disgust me! GMO let out a strange cry as he was sent flying. He then prostrated himself on the ground like a big horse. But he quickly got up, and ran back with a drooling face. He then complained. Big brother! You can't dispel my stubborn pursuit of love! This is inhumane! Chu Yang looked up to the sky and sighed. Even if you use violence to obstruct me, I will still persevere. For the sake of my love, I will fight to the end. Second Master Ji clenched his fists, and made a solemn vow. Sigh. Chu Yang shook his head weakly. That Miss Huyen, how is she? Ji Mo's eyes brightened when he heard the words Miss Huyen. His saliva almost dripped out of his mouth. Then, he spoke in a voice that was almost roaring. Beautiful! How beautiful! Every word he spoke caused his body to tremble violently. Chu Yang recalled again in his mind. Then, he hung his head weakly. Where is she beautiful? Everywhere is beautiful! Everywhere is beautiful! GMO opened his eyes wide and gasped for breath. Then, he narrowed his eyes. His face was full of fascination. Obviously, he was thinking of Miss Huyen, who he yearned for day and night. Big brother! You don't know. GMO narrowed his eyes and used a dreamy tone. He gestured with his hands. First, he spread his fingers and made two bow-like shapes. Then, he placed them on his chest. This place is so big. Then, her two hands slid down from her chest to her buttocks in a gentle manner. She twisted her waist like a snake while caressing both sides of her buttocks. It's so round here. Chu Yang looked at him with disgust. He felt that this guy's actions were inconceivable. If it weren't for his strong willpower, he would have vomited a long time ago. GMO pretended to be intoxicated. Also, I feel so safe when I'm with her. Chu Yang weakly shook his head and retched. Then, he turned around and walked away. Big brother! Big brother Chu, why are you going? GMO hastily jumped in front of him and blocked his path. He looked at him with hidden bitterness. This reaction of yours hurts a person like me who is immersed in the river of love. Chu Yang closed his eyes and said in a tangled manner. Second Master Ji, you know that I've been hurt by you since a long time ago, when you made your first expression and shouted spring, I'll change. GMO resolutely raised his hand. I'll change, okay. Chu Yang sighed and walked inside. What's going on? Tell me. If you continue to be so unruly, be careful that I don't join forces with the other brothers to beat you to death. Don't. GMO panicked. He eagerly followed Chu Yang and begged for mercy. I haven't seen you for a long time. Don't mention how excited I am when I see you. Look at me, big brother. King level! King level! Then, he curled his arms and bulged his muscles. He looked at Chu Yang with a beaming face and winked flirtatiously. Chu Yang was completely helpless. Motherfucker, why did I become sworn brothers with such a person? I've really met the wrong person. Be serious! Chu Yang couldn't bear it anymore and shouted loudly. The matter is... GMO immediately followed Chu Yang's advice and told him the story of his romance. It turned out that after GMO and Ji Zhu had led the troops to Tsunglan battlefront, Grand Duke Ji Zhu had led the troops to fight a few battles. After that, he had occupied a favorable position and set up camp. He had begun to recuperate. GMO looked at his elder brother drinking wine every day. He was drunk and slept. He was helpless when he woke up. Although GMO was also very lazy, he was still more diligent than his elder brother. Besides, he couldn't stand the disgust of facing Ji Zhu every day. So, he volunteered to go out to hunt spirit beasts and hone his martial skills. Ji Zhu had drunk too much at that time. He said in a daze, Then get lost. So, GMO got lost. Second Master Ji had gone out alone. And he had made a name for himself in Tsunglan battlefront. But he had come across Huyen Albua's pink core when he had hunted a spirit beast not long ago. The two sides had quarreled over the spirit beast. So, they had fought. Second Master Ji had been besieged by hundreds of beautiful women. And he had been defeated and captured. GMO had looked up at Chu Yang in embarrassment when he had said this. He then smiled in shame. Big brother, I've lost face for you. I was captured by a group of women. But those women were really tough. Motherfucker, they were all good men, motherfucker. Continue. Chu Yang's face had darkened. He frowned and shouted. Yes. GMO repeatedly promised. He wiped his sweat. Then, he continued to speak. Huyen Albua didn't like Second Master Ji's lazy appearance after he had been captured. So, she wanted to teach him a lesson. She didn't want to do anything to him. She only wanted to beat him up and let him go. But Second Master Ji was heroic and unyielding. He didn't stop cursing for a day and a night. All the women of the Huyen clan, even the hens, had met with bad luck. Huyen Albua was tall and sturdy. She looked even more manly than a man. But she was still an unmarried maiden. So, she was the real deal, therefore, she burst into anger. She rushed to the place where GMO was being held, and beat him up ruthlessly. However, Second Master G had become more and more energetic. He had been roaring non-stop. He had been beaten black and blue all over his body. But he hadn't shown any mercy. Miss Huyen was also panting because of exhaustion. But Second Master G suddenly begged for mercy at this time. He even offered a condition. "I'm thirsty. I won't curse as long as you give me enough water to drink." Chu Yang smiled when he heard this. I wouldn't have given him any water if it were me. However, Huyen Alba also felt very apologetic for beating the dignified second master of the Ji clan. So, she saw that GMO had the tendency to admit defeat. So, she wanted to take advantage of this situation to get off the donkey. So, she gave him some water to drink. She didn't expect that after GMO drank some water to moisten his throat, he would start cursing even more fiercely. His throat that had just been moistened was extremely loud and clear. Huyen Alba thought that she was as intelligent as a man. But she was tricked by this guy. So, she became angry out of humiliation. So, she tortured GMO even more. But Second Master G didn't care what she did. "I'll curse you as long as you don't cut my tongue. I'll hit you if you let me go." However, GMO was the second master of the Ji clan. Huyen Alba didn't dare to kill him. So, she could only beat him viciously. But the more she beat him, the fiercer GMO cursed. The two of them were actually wasting time. In the end, Huyen Alba still didn't let him go. But she admired this man's stubbornness to the point of prostrating herself in admiration. How many of these pampered and spoiled sons are like GMO? Her fiancé, Gao Xing, who had been engaged to her since childhood, didn't even dare to take responsibility. He directly ran away, so the two parties involved were also confused. So, they suddenly stopped beating and cursing. Then, Huyen Alba began to treat GMO's injuries. GMO felt dizzy. He didn't care if others beat or cursed him. But when others treated him well, he felt numb. He felt dizzy and enjoyed the beauty's grace for a few days. Then, the two of them unexpectedly fell in love with each other. That day, Second Master Ji was enjoying the great beauty Huyen's service. He couldn't help but feel dizzy and said, "It's so good. Whoever marries you in the future will be really lucky. You're also capable and good-looking. Moreover, you give people a sense of security." He didn't expect that Miss Huyen would unexpectedly reply, "Do you want this kind of luck?" Then GMO said, "I couldn't ask for more." After saying that, the two of them were startled at the same time. They thought at the same time, "Damn. This matter is feasible." Then Miss Huyen talked about her engagement with Gao Xing. After Second Master Ji heard it, he waved his hand heroically and said, "Damn it! Don't worry! I'll do him! You just wait to be my wife." As a result, Second Master Ji raised his voice and shouted, "There's trouble, and it's big trouble." Chapter 430. Young Master Gao Xing of the Gao clan had always been dissatisfied with this marriage. In fact, he didn't hesitate to rebel against his clan, and went to the lower three heavens to hang out with the Wuqing Ro. He didn't want to accept that he had such a fiancée. GMO had taken a fancy to Huyen Alba. Moreover, both of them were happy with each other. So, Gao Xing should have felt relieved from a heavy burden. At least, he should have unloaded a heavy burden. However, the fact was very wrong. It was one thing to look down on one's own fiancée. It was another thing to not want her. But, it was unacceptable to have someone else snatch her away from him. Especially, this marriage involved the alliance between the Huyen clan and the Gao clan. The alliance would have ceased to exist if this marriage failed. Huyen Alba would have followed GMO. So, the Huyen clan would have had to form an alliance with the Ji clan. Moreover, the Gao clan and the Ji clan had never seen eye to eye. So, wouldn't this create two powerful enemies? Moreover, young Master Gao couldn't afford to lose face. So, the entire lower three heavens was talking about this. This is too awesome. Second Master GMO has snatched Gao Xing's fiancée. It's Miss Alba of the Huyan clan. What kind of fucking rumor is this? The 8 characters haven't been set yet. Moreover, she's only his fiancée. But young Master Gao's head has been covered in green grease from time to time. His clan is in danger, and his reputation is in danger. Moreover, this is a great humiliation. This is unbearable. Gao Xing became angry. He shook his head and issued a statement. I don't want her. But she's still my fiancée in name. What's the matter with you, GMO? How can you let go of the humiliation you've inflicted on me? You must clarify the facts in front of the heroes of the world. You must apologize to me. Moreover, your G-clan must compensate me for the damage to my reputation. GMO obviously wouldn't agree. So, both sides were in a deadlock. But don't forget that there were many onlookers. Most of the onlookers wished for the world to be in chaos. Therefore, booing sounds came from everywhere. Everyone fanned the flames, and said that these two people were going to have a decisive battle. However, an extremely crucial person appeared at the most critical moment. This person had reversed the entire situation. He was a person who wished for the world to be in chaos. Luo Kudi. This second young master Luo publicly stood out to support GMO. Moreover, one day, after getting drunk, he loudly shouted in a restaurant, "What? This Gao Xing really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. GMO taking a fancy to your wife is giving you face." This bastard was still unwilling to give up. He was simply asking for a beating. If he dared to raise any more unrealistic delusions, Big Brother would be the first to stand up and slap him in the mouth. No matter what, they had to respond to GMO's decision to pursue pure love. So, they did not hesitate to beat Gao Xing until he became a pig's head. Luo Kudi's words caused the entire Jianghu to explode. Luo Kudi was the newly promoted king-level expert wolf sword. Moreover, his influence in the Luo clan had also risen along with his selection as one of the top 10 experts of the younger generation. His words proved that the Luo clan supported the Ji clan. Not only was the Gao clan furious, but even the Luo clan's people were also furious. This was clearly not the Luo clan's decision. The family hadn't even come up with a decision yet, but second young Master Luo had already chosen a side on behalf of the family. Then, Meng Luo Gong of the Meng family stood up to support Gao Xing. But then, Dong clan's Dong Wushang made a strong appearance. He waved his dark saber, and made his position clear to the world. We support GMO. Li clan's Li Xiong too had always been hot-tempered. He hated evil as if they were his personal enemies. He heard that Gao Xing's wife had been snatched away. Moreover, the snatcher was extremely arrogant. So, he became hot-headed and confronted Dong Wushang. Therefore, there were already large clans involved in this matter. Du Xing appeared at the critical moment like a dark horse. He coldly questioned the world. Who dares to snatch my brother's wife? Gao Xing's wife was snatched away because he was a good-for-nothing. Why do you want to get involved? The three heavens boiled over. Du Xing was the representative of the younger generation. So, his old rival Tu Qianhao naturally joined the Li clan and Gao clan's camp without any hesitation. He threw out a sentence with a clear stance. I will deal with Du Xing. The three heavens thoroughly boiled over. The 8 great clans had agreed that the two sides would decide the ownership of the beauty on Mt Dingjun of the Tsunglan battlefront on a certain day. The 8 great clans would each send out 2 people to fight with the other side. The last battle would be GMO against Gao Xing. This was originally a drama of 2 aristocratic clans fighting for affection. But it unexpectedly swept over the entire 3 heavens, because Duke Ao Xie Yun, Duke Xie Danqiong, Duke O Du Xiao, Duke Missouri Tian, and Duke Yun weren't willing to stay silent. So, they all joined in. Anyway, there was nothing to do in the 3 heavens. The 3 Stars Divine clan had also retreated for the time being. So, how could these men be willing to stay silent if they didn't stir up some trouble? However, these 4 men had remained silent. Moreover, they had joined forces to set up a big gambling house. They were betting on who would win between GMO and Gao Xing. They could place a bet as long as they were interested. It didn't matter how big the bet was. The subordinates of the dark bamboo also took advantage of this opportunity to set up an underground betting house. Duke Yu oversaw the heroes of the world with disdain. As a result, the 3 days were in an uproar. There was still half a month left until the day of the war. The heroes of the world would converge on Mt Dingjun at that time. It would be incomparably lively. Moreover, the Black Devil clan, a clan of assassins, had also begun to move out. Many assassination targets would appear here. After all, they were all money. GMO and his brother had already begun to set out for that place. They had arrived near the Raging Fire mountain range on the second day of their journey. Duke GMO had a sudden urge to go to the toilet. So, he found a village and went inside to relieve himself. But he bumped into Chu Yang when he came out. GMO's narration of the matter had come to an end. Chu Yang's entire body twitched as he listened. His stomach cramped. Is this even possible? You guys agreed to meet there? Chu Yang's heart warmed up. He hadn't expected that his brothers would participate in this farce. Everyone is heading towards Mt Dingjun. We've agreed to meet at the foot of Mt Dingjun. However, we'll surely bump into a few people along the way. They'll either be friends or enemies. GMO laughed in a carefree manner. Well, is there any news about Ray Butong? Chu Yang asked. I heard that a spirit beast has appeared in the ice and snow wilderness in the far north. Many Three Heavens King level and Emperor level experts have already lost their lives to this spirit beast. The Three Stars Divine clan has temporarily retreated. So, this spirit beast has become the biggest threat. Stealing God, Thieving Ghost, and the others have already rushed there. Many other people are also rushing there. We've gathered our forces this time because of this reason. So, we'll all go there together after this matter is over. Jimo's eyes were somewhat fascinated. Big brother, it's a spirit beast. It'll be very cool if we can catch it and use it as a special guest. Yes, it'll be very cool. It'll turn around and swallow you whole. Chu Yang nodded. However, he was thinking about the 12 influential figures of his previous life: Black Devil, Dark Bamboo, Lone Guest, Poison Spirit, Tianji, Li Xiong Tu, Black Saber, Qian Hao, Xie Gong, Meng Luo, Viburnum Flower, Tian Buru. Now, there were 12 of them. Moreover, they were also involved in this matter. Only 3 mysterious figures had been assassinated: young Black Devil, the representative of Black Devil, Jun Shizhu, the leader of Dark Bamboo, and Tian Buru. It's really a grand occasion. The 2 men chatted as they caught up with the G-Clan's team. Then, Chu Yang discovered that there was a carriage in the G-Clan's team. It was being pulled by 8 fine horses, and was moving forward steadily. My elder brother is inside, cough cough, my elder brother doesn't want to walk. GMO introduced the carriage in a somewhat embarrassed manner. At this moment, a lazy voice came out of the carriage. Second Master G, you've come back from taking a dump? Elder brother, we have a distinguished guest. GMO's face darkened. A rustling sound came out of the carriage. Then, the curtain of the carriage was lifted. GMO vigorously jumped to the side at lightning speed. However, Chu Yang didn't know that. He was still waiting for GMO to introduce him. But the carriage's curtain was lifted, and a strong smell of feet suddenly blew over. Chu Yang choked, and his stomach started to churn. In fact, he almost vomited. His facial features became distorted. GMO laughed on one side. He took pleasure in Chu Yang's misfortune. Then, he saw 2 big and smelly feet stretch out a hand. Then, Grand Duke Jizhu appeared outside the carriage. His hair looked like a chicken's nest. His lapel was half open, and a tuft of black hair was exposed on his chest. His trousers were rolled up, and his 2 hairy legs were exposed. Then, he got down from the carriage. This is... Jizhu looked at Chu Yang, and blinked. He felt that something was wrong. So, he stretched out his hand, and pulled off a piece of booger from the corner of his eye. This is my big brother! GMO jumped up, and waved his hand to command. You guys, get out of the way, get out of the way. Don't blow the smell here, I am Chu Yang. Chu Yang reluctantly revealed a smile. Hello, hello. Ayaya. Ji Zhu enthusiastically held Chu Yang's hand and shook it repeatedly. The famous brother Chu. Ayaya. Chu Yang was speechless. He felt that his palm was slippery and sticky. GMO looked at his big brother speechlessly. Big brother, when did I tell you? I clearly didn't say it. So what if you didn't say it? Jiju said casually. Since I am your big brother, I will be famous tomorrow. Chu Yang lowered his head speechlessly. Jiju chatted for a while, and quickly slipped back into the carriage. The wind outside is strong, and I need to take care of my skin. The carriage's curtain was closed. Chu Yang hadn't turned around yet. He felt that there was still a smell lingering around him. He looked around, but didn't find it. He raised his hands and smelled them. Suddenly, he turned his head and retched. His hands were full of the smell of feet. My big brother's habit, GMO said embarrassedly. He likes to scratch his feet. Chu Yang retched again. He lifted his foot and kicked this bastard to the side. Then, he snatched a water bag and fiercely scrubbed it a few times. He looked at the carriage with hatred. GMO's big brother is really a genius. Damn it. Damn it. Mo clan backyard. Mo Ching Wu went back to her room. She put a few gold coins into her pocket. Then she tilted her head and thought for a while. Then she untied the bow on her head and put it in her bosom. Then she thought for a while. Then she took off her red clothes and changed into a green one. Chapter 431. Leave the clan. This was Mo Ching Wu's persistent wish for more than a year. Especially after the marriage proposal a few days ago, Mo Ching Wu had completely lost hope in her clan. She couldn't be protected here. She could only be used as a tool. Over the past year, Mo Ching Wu had been naively hoping that her father would change his mind and that her clan would be kinder to her. After all, it wasn't my fault that my 3-ene meridian was destroyed. I was the victim. I didn't want the clan to nurture me like before, but please at least treat me as a child of the clan. Even when the clan was nurturing me, I didn't offend anyone. I greeted everyone with a smile. Everyone praised me for being obedient. Why are they ignoring me now? She had been hoping for a year, but all she got was despair. The marriage proposal of the Meng clan had extinguished the last bit of light in Mo Ching Wu's heart. She wanted to leave here. Leave here and go to Tsanglan battlefront. Brother Chu Yang's brothers are all there. I just need to find one. I will wait for Brother Chu Yang there, but I have never gone out by myself. This route needs to be carefully planned. Mo Ching Wu spent a few days asking around. No matter what was in the house, she wouldn't take it away. First, it belonged to the Mo clan. She didn't want to take it away. Second, if she took it away, she was afraid that she would be discovered immediately. Even her most beloved scabbard was left at home. Everyone in the Mo clan knew that this was Mo Ching Wu's most beloved treasure. As long as the scabbard was still there, Mo Ching Wu wouldn't disappear. She thought for a long time and tried her best to think thoroughly. Regarding this matter, she had been pondering in her little heart. She didn't discuss it with anyone. She took one last look at the room, and the scabbard on the pillow. Then, she walked out without any reluctance. Mother, I want to go out and play. Mo Ching Wu looked at Madame Mo. These days have been so boring. Good. I will immediately send someone to accompany you. Madame Mo was pleasantly surprised. Her daughter had been more and more depressed and silent these days. She was also worried. Now that she finally proposed to go out and play, she could take it as a distraction. At least her mood would be better. There's no need for that. I'll just fly a kite in the nearby grassland. Then I want to go to the Wild Goose River to look at the river water and play with the water. While I'm at it, I want to see if I can catch any fish. Mo Ching Wu pretended to be light-hearted and smiled. Naughty! Madame Mo said angrily. You are already a big girl, yet you still want to play in the water and catch fish. She muttered to herself irresolutely for a moment before saying, All right. Go, don't forget to come back early. It's okay. I have a few copper coins with me. I can still buy some things. Mo Ching-wu took out a dozen copper coins and shook them. Haha, go ahead. Madame Mo did not take it to heart. Then, Mother, your daughter will leave now. Mo Ching-wu looked at her mother and said softly. It never occurred to Madame Mo that the words "Mother, I'm leaving" meant that her daughter was saying goodbye to her for a long time. She only stroked her daughter's hair and said sadly, Go and relax. Xiao Wu, some things can't be forced. You have to understand the family, Mo Ching-wu lowered her head. No one could see that the last bit of light in her eyes was quietly extinguished. Understand the family? You mean sacrificing me, right? I understand the family, but what should I do? She lowered her head and thought for a moment before walking out. Behind her, Madame Mo sighed softly. It was because of her poor aptitude that she was betrothed at an early age. She thought that her daughter was born with 3 meridians and would have a happy life. She did not expect that her daughter would have the same fate as her. Mo Ching-wu walked out of the small courtyard briskly. She raised her small face and greeted everyone she saw. She smiled sweetly and walked out. She walked out of the Mo clan's gate. When she walked out of the gate, she even hugged the 2 stone lions at the gate for a while. She jumped on the lion's head and tiptoed to look at the house. The guards at the gate smiled faintly. Miss is already 11 years old and tall, but she is still so naughty. Let's go. Mo Ching-wu waved her hand. Under the guard's smile, she turned her head and ran away briskly. The moment she turned her head, Mo Ching-wu's eyes were a little red. She bit her lips hard, trying her best not to cry. Then, she raised her head and looked at the morning sun that had just risen. The sunlight shone on her hair, turning it into a light golden color. She walked briskly all the way to the grassland behind the Mo clan's residence. Mo Ching-wu held her chin and looked at a few 8-year-old children playing on the grassland for a while. Then she walked all the way to the east and walked to the Wild Goose River. She leaned on the river and looked at something for a while. No one saw that she had smeared something on her face at this moment. Her originally elegant and cute little face suddenly turned black. She saw a small boat coming from afar. There were a few people standing at the bow of the boat, looking at the scenery on both sides of the river with their hands behind their backs. Mo Ching-wu then jumped down and jumped onto the riverbed. She first looked at the people on the boat and felt a little relieved. Then she waved her hand vigorously. The boat stopped and an old man walked out. He had a square face and big ears. His hair and beard were all white. He looked at her with amazement. Little girl, I want to go home. Mo Ching-wu's little mouth flattened and her eyes were red. My house is right there, just follow the river. Grandpa, can you give me a ride? I'll give you money. As she spoke, she took out a pitiful amount of silver and looked at the old man pitifully. Mo Ching-wu knew that one shouldn't show off one's wealth. Poor little girl, did you get separated from your family? The old man sighed sympathetically. Come on up, a little girl like you doesn't need silver, thank you, Grandpa. Mo Ching-wu obediently bowed and briskly boarded the boat. She hid her small body in the cabin. My home is in Liuhe town, which is 200 or more than 100 kilometers below us. Mo Ching-wu blinked her eyes and innocently said, Daddy was doing business, so I followed him out to play. However, I followed a monkey and couldn't find Daddy in the end, Liuhe town. The old man was obviously a very kind old man. Yes, this was also the reason why Mo Ching-wu dared to board the boat. Next time, don't run around. There are so many bad people. Poor little girl. The old man sighed and patted Mo Ching-wu's head. Give the little girl some food. Are you hungry? Yes. She nodded timidly. The old man was just an ordinary businessman and didn't take this matter seriously. Every time before Mo Ching-wu ate or drank, her little hand would intentionally or unintentionally reach into the bowl. On her finger, there was a thin and ordinary-looking ring, the poison testing ring. Although she was young, she was extremely careful. If she fell into someone else's trap, she would never see Brother Chu Yang again. Mo Qingwu secretly looked at the Mo clan's planes, which were getting farther and farther away from her cabin. Her eyes were fixed, and she bit her lips. Home used to be the place she was most attached to. But now, she had to leave. Mo Qingwu would no longer exist in the Mo clan. Mother, take care! When they arrived at Liuhe town, Mo Qingwu politely bid farewell to the old man and went ashore. She disappeared into a willow forest with a wave of her hand. The old man watched her go with a reluctant look on his face. In this short period of time together, he was already full of love for this well-behaved little girl. Sir, this young lady has been very vigilant this whole journey. The guard walked behind him and reminded him. Don't worry about it. A little girl is outside, so it's normal to be vigilant. The old man stroked his beard disapprovingly and said with a smile, If only this old man had such a granddaughter. He let out a long sigh as he spoke. Mo Qingwu found the market in Liuhe town and bought a set of gray men's clothing. Then she changed out of her clothes, put on a hat, and dyed her face a bronze color. Her thin and weak body that had not yet started to develop instantly turned into a thin and ordinary-looking man. Then, she asked around and found a mule and horse company. She spent 10 taels of silver to hire a carriage. She ate and lived in the carriage and headed east. 3 days later, Mo Qingwu got down from the carriage and bought a horse to pull the carriage with a piece of gold. She mounted the horse and galloped away. Her small figure slowly disappeared into the horizon. At this moment, she was already more than 1,000 miles away from the Mo clan. She was very careful along the way. She had thought about everything hundreds and thousands of times in her heart. Unexpectedly, she was scared but not in danger. However, from now on, she had to travel thousands of miles to the Tsanglan battlefront. She was at a loss on this long journey. She did not know where her future lay. She also did not know how many dangers a child like her would encounter on this journey. Spirit beasts, wild beasts, villains, robbers, thieves. She only knew that she had to go to the Tsanglan battlefront. That was her only hope. In her previous life, Mo Qingwu also ran away from home because she was forced to marry. In this life, she still walked on the same path. However, in this life, she ran away 2 years earlier than in her previous life. There was another difference. In her previous life, she did not even have the goal of going to the Tsanglan battlefront. After leaving the clan, she found a place to hide. Moreover, her heart was filled with despair. But in this life, at least she had hope and a goal in her heart. At this time, the Mo clan was already in chaos. Mo Qingwu had disappeared. She did not return that night. Madame Mo felt strange. Together with Mo Xingqian, she went to Mo Qingwu's small courtyard to check. When they opened the door, they saw that the room was in order. When they opened the bedroom door, they saw that the tattered scabbard was still as usual. It was hidden under the pillow like a treasure, half of it exposed. The two of them were relieved. After all, the surrounding hundreds of miles was the Mo clan's territory. Nothing would happen to Mo Qingwu. But not returning for a night, something was not right. The next day, they went out to inquire and slowly found the riverside. Finally, they confirmed that Mo Qingwu had run away from home. Mo Xingqian was furious. Chapter 432. What are you waiting for? Mo Xingqian roared, and the entire Mo clan began to move. Generally speaking, where could an 11-year-old girl run to? Even if he ran for more than 10 miles, it wouldn't be that bad, right? Even if he was from an aristocratic family, running a few hundred miles, at the age of 11, he should be considered very awesome, right? Therefore, the people of the Mo clan were very relaxed in the beginning. They didn't take it to heart. But everyone's faces darkened after 3 days of continuous searching. The entire Mo clan's territory had been thoroughly searched. But Mo Qingwu was nowhere to be found. Mo Xingqian roared furiously. Great Elder Mo Wu Xian was expressionless as he watched Mo Xingqian reprimand his subordinates. After a long while, Mo Xingqian waved his hand and ordered everyone to scram. Xiao Wu might have decided to leave the family. Mo Wu Xian faintly said. So, I'm afraid that he's already out of the Mo clan's territory. How so? Mo Xingqian widened his eyes. She's just a little girl, wouldn't it be better for her to stay in the clan? She ran out so heartlessly. What an unfilial daughter! All these years, when has our Mo clan ever treated her unfairly? I'm so pissed off. Mo Wu Xian's eyes flashed as he said. Since ancient times, girls have always been extroverted. This has never changed. Xiao Wu Shi. Haha, Xingqian, don't tell anyone about this. Keep it a secret. Dispatch people to secretly search for them. We can't break the cooperation with the main clan. The marriage contract was maintained. This is the most important thing. Yes. After Mo Xingqian's anger subsided, he became worried again. But Xiao Wu ran out like this. The people of Jianghu are sinister. How dangerous would that be? So what if it's dangerous? A crippled Mo Qin Wu, even if you are worried about her, what can you do? That's all she can do for the family. Mo Wu Xian said coldly. The most important thing is that you have to look at the family's interests. Even if Xiao Wu doesn't come back. Meng Luo hasn't seen Xiao Wu, right? He could just find someone to replace him. Our Mo clan should have a lot of girls of this age. I understand the Grand Elder's meaning. Mo Xingqian was silent for a moment. Yes, if it's a replacement, we have to act now. We have to be prepared just in case. Mo Wu Xian's skinny face broke into a smile. It won't be good if we get exposed. Yes. I have to say, Xingqian, the way you teach your children is still lacking. Mo Wu Xian heaved a long sigh. Then, he said in an exasperated tone, Look at your son, and look at your daughter. Two of them are fighting for power and profit, and one of them doesn't care about her upbringing. She doesn't know how to repay her family. She runs away from home when things don't go her way. With that, he let out a long sigh and left in a huff. Mo Xingqian sat there in a daze for a while, before his face suddenly contorted. He raised his palm and slammed it onto the table. With a crash, the rosewood table turned into a pile of powder. He muttered to himself. What do you mean by two sons fighting for power? That's because my son is outstanding. If others wanted to fight for it, would they be able to? What do you mean my daughter only suffered a small blow? First, you beat someone down from heaven to hell, and then you fished him out of hell to make use of him. The price is a lifetime. Who would be able to bear it? Motherfucker, my mother is my daughter because I'm her father. Who do you think you are? Mo Xingqian's face twisted. I can scold her, but others can't. Humph. Of course, he didn't dare to say these words out loud. Humph, even if I know your hardships, when you come back, this old man will still teach you a good lesson. Mo Xingqian said and left in a huff. Ever since Mo Qingwu rode a fast horse, she was afraid that her family would catch up with her and bring her back. Apart from the necessary rest, she had been riding as fast as she could, hurrying along at the fastest speed possible. After a few days, it was already getting more and more desolate, and the pedestrians on the road were also getting fewer and fewer. But how could Mo Qingwu's delicate body withstand continuous riding? Although she tried her best to bear with it, the inside of her two big legs had already been scraped into a bloody mess. She really couldn't ride a horse anymore. Mo Qingwu could only rest for a while, bandage her wounds, and change to walking. With every step she took, she frowned. It's said to be roaming the Jianghu, roaming the Jianghu. Roaming the Jianghu is also very tiring. Mo Qingwu wiped the sweat on her forehead, pouted her little mouth, and said, They talk about the martial world every day like it's a painting, saying that there's iron blood and gentleness. Who knew that it's not the case at all? Humph, I won't believe their words anymore. She wrinkled her nose. I didn't see anything else, just feel that there are a lot of mosquitoes. And it's very lonely. She grumbled as she hurried along. At this moment, a cloud of dust rose from behind, and a troop of cavalry swept over like a hurricane. The riders on the horses were all dressed in black armor and black robes. Like a huge dark cloud, madly sweeping over. Mo Qingwu hurriedly pulled her thin horse to hide by the side of the road. The troop of horses rumbled past her, and the riders on the horses didn't even look at her from the corner of their eyes, and swept past like a gust of wind. Then, a gorgeous carriage, pulled by 8 handsome black horses, galloped away, their manes flying in the wind. But just as it passed by Mo Qingwu, suddenly someone in the carriage made a "huh" sound. Then, an order was given, and the galloping troop of cavalry in front actually stopped in an instant, and immediately turned their horses around, galloping back. In just a moment, they had already returned to their original spot, and Mo Qingwu and her horse were tightly surrounded. "You! What are you doing?" Mo Qingwu looked at them in panic. Creak, creak, creak. The carriage galloped back, and stopped in front of her. Mo Qingwu clearly felt a strong aura pouring down from the carriage, and faintly felt that there was a pair of sharp eyes looking at her from the carriage. All the riders, including the war horses, were silent at this moment. After a long time, a voice slowly came out from the carriage. The voice was cold and stern. "An 11-year-old martial master? Very interesting." Mo Qingwu's body tensed up, and she forced herself to be afraid, and asked weakly, "Who are you?" "Who am I?" The person in the carriage laughed coldly, and suddenly said sternly, "I'm asking you now, who are you? What's your name? Where are you from? Where are you going?" The voice was cold, and revealed a sense of absolute authority, clearly showing that if you don't answer well, your head will fall to the ground. Mo Qingwu was intimidated by a strong aura, and almost couldn't lift a finger. Even her own thoughts seemed to be imprisoned, and she couldn't help but speak the truth. But at this moment, a feeling of resentment suddenly rushed from her chest. I was bullied in the clan, and no one looked up to me. Now that I'm out, I actually meet someone who can bully me as he pleases? Was I, Mo Qingwu, born to be bullied? Suddenly, a strong feeling of rebellion rushed up, and her mind suddenly became clear, and she said, "My surname is Chu. My name is Chu. Little Yang." "Little Yang?" The voice of the person in the carriage didn't change, but it made people feel a little amused and surprised. "Where are you from?" "Liuhe Town." "Where are you going?" "To Songlan Battlefront." "What are you going to do there?" "Looking for someone." Mo Qingwu suddenly felt that she was speaking more and more fluently. "Looking for who?" "Looking for my brother." "Who is your brother?" "My brother is called Chu Deang." The person in the carriage suddenly sneered, and said slowly, not bad at all. A 10-year-old kid can actually lie in front of me, and you're actually speaking more and more fluently." "I didn't," Mo Qingwu said in a panic. "I didn't lie." "Didn't lie?" The person in the carriage smiled faintly. "Since you didn't lie, then let me ask you. Are you a man or a woman?" "Man." Mo Qingwu's little face turned pale. "Man?" The person in the carriage snorted coldly, and suddenly said in a stern voice, "Men! Take off his clothes and see if he's a man or a woman." No. "I'm a woman, a woman, a woman." Mo Qingwu suddenly grabbed her lapel nervously, squatted on the ground, and shouted loudly. The person in the carriage seemed to laugh, and then said coldly, "You didn't lie, did you?" Mo Qingwu's lips trembled, and she lowered her head. "You're also not called Chu Deang. You shouldn't be from Liuhe Town, and you shouldn't be looking for Chu Deang," the person in the carriage said indifferently. "However, you're right to go to Songlan Battlefront to look for someone." Mo Qingwu only felt all the hair on her body stand on end. "And the person you're looking for," the person in the carriage said indifferently, "should be called Mo Tianji, right? Isn't that right, Miss Mo Qingwu?" Mo Qingwu's hair stood on end. This person actually knows my identity. She thought that the person in the carriage was a ghost, and suddenly screamed, "Who are you?" "Humph." The person in the carriage didn't answer and said, "I heard that the Mo clan's young miss ran away a few days ago, and I didn't expect to see her today." I really didn't expect that an 11-year-old girl like you would actually run 4,500 miles alone. It's really not easy." Then, he became silent, as if thinking about something, and then said crisply, "Bring her in. Such a windfall delivered to our doorstep, how can we not take it? When this matter is over, send people to separately look for Mo Tianji and Mo Xingqin, and let them each pay the ransom. The base price is 20 million taels." A voice inside said, "This isn't right. After all, she's just a child, and quite pitiful. Even if we find her, we'll just send her home." That cold and harsh voice said resolutely, "No! Who is Mo Xingqin? Why should I send him back when I find her? He doesn't deserve to take her back without spending a single cent from me. Mo Tianji also doesn't have this right." He snorted and said, "Not taking anything, that's even more not our style." Mo Qingwu was sent into the carriage, and she saw that the spacious interior of the carriage was actually covered with the snow-white fur of an ice bear. There was a tea table on both sides, and on one side of the tea table there was a zither, and on the seat sat a gentle young girl, her starry eyes intoxicated. Opposite her was a black-clothed woman, and she was about 30 or 40 years old. She had willowy eyebrows, starry eyes, and black hair like clouds. If she were younger by a few years, she would have been called a stunning beauty of this generation. However, her face was ice-cold, and her eyes were as sharp as a knife. She didn't even need to move, but her imposing aura was as heavy as a mountain, and oppressed people until they couldn't breathe. At this moment, she was coldly sizing up Mo Qingwu, and said in a dense voice, "Miss Mo may have heard of my name, I'm called Jun Shizhu." Chapter 433. Jun Shizhu! Mo Qingwu almost jumped up. She couldn't help but open her small mouth. He was tongue-tied. "This woman is Jun Shizhu?" Mo Qingwu couldn't be blamed for being surprised. It was mainly because this name was too famous in the three heavens. The leader of the Dark Bamboo. The Alliance Master of the Three Heavens Underworld Forces. Jun Shizhu. In the three heavens, this name that exuded an aura of elegance, and carried a bit of the style of a hermit was actually a symbol of terror. The Mo clan was rich and powerful. However, they had always kept a respectful distance from the Dark Bamboo. They had never interfered with the Dark Bamboo's business. They would retreat whenever there was a conflict of interest. They couldn't afford to offend him. I had heard that the Wanla Alliance used to be a big underworld organization. Its leader was surnamed Wan, and his name was Wan Ledan. However, Wan Ledan had turned into an egg ever since Jun Shizhu had risen to power. And the Wan Le League also became the finished league. The entire Wan Le League had tens of thousands of people, but they were uprooted and destroyed by the Dark Bamboo within half a year. It was said that the massacre caused the entire three heavens to tremble. However, the most surprising thing was that Jun Shizhu didn't personally go into action. The one who had attacked was the #1 expert under Jun Shizhu's command, Dukyu. Dukyu took care of everything, no matter if it was planning intelligence or leading the troops in battle. Dukyu was a mysterious person who wasn't inferior to Jun Shizhu. It was said that Dukyu had single-handedly killed his way into the headquarters of the Wan Ledan. And he had chopped down the Emperor-level expert of the Wan Ledan. Then, he had killed nearly 30 King-level experts of the Wan Ledan. He had gotten tired of killing them. So, he had eaten a meal at the headquarters of the Wan Ledan. Then, he had strolled out of the headquarters in a leisurely manner. As soon as he walked out, he immediately ordered the general attack. The Wanla League was like a group of dragons without a leader, and their army was defeated like a mountain yamen. The Dark Bamboo had become the overlord of the underworld after that battle. And Mo Qingwu had heard the name of Jun Shizhu more than a dozen times. So, she was already familiar with this mysterious and powerful person. But today, when he finally met him, he had a feeling that meeting him in person is far better than hearing about him. This woman is really amazing. It was such a hot day, and Mo Qingwu was in a sealed carriage. But she was sitting next to Jun Shizhu. Jun Shizhu wasn't circulating her martial power. But Mo Qingwu could still feel a slight chill. Miss Mo, it's been hard on you. Jun Shizhu coldly looked at Mo Qingwu and gently shook her head. I don't like children who lie. But Mo Qingwu suddenly recalled the other party's words about kidnapping and extortion. She couldn't help but plead. But I don't want to go back to the clan. That's not for me to decide. Your father and brother have the final say. Jun Shizhu gently leaned back and indifferently said, 20 million taels per person. So, that's a total of 40 million taels. You can go back if they want you to. But you can stay with me if they don't want you to go back. As he spoke, he suddenly asked inadvertently, but you're the eldest daughter of the Mo clan. Why don't you want to go back? Boo-hoo. Mo Qingwu was reminded of her sad past. Big drops of sparkling and translucent tears fell down from her eyes. I don't want to go back. Boo-hoo. If I go back, they will force me to get married. The clan needs allies. I don't want to get married. Mo Qingwu cried very sadly. Get married? Jun Shizhu was obviously startled. Jun Lulu also opened her eyes wide in astonishment. Get married? Jun Shizhu looked at the little girl in front of her. Her body hadn't even begun to develop yet. She's so young. The clan wants her to get married in order to rope in allies? Jun Lulu's beautiful eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of sympathy. She extended her hand, held Mo Qingwu in her bosom, and comforted her. Don't cry, don't cry. Jun Shizhu's complexion turned from white to blue. A trace of pain appeared in her eyes. It seemed as if she had touched upon some painful memory. Her face turned ashen. She suddenly slapped the tea table in front of her with a bang, and angrily cursed. Fuck Mo Xingqian. He's forcing his 11-year-old daughter to get married. He doesn't have the least bit of humanity. Mo clan. A bunch of bastards. With a bang, a palm-shaped hole immediately appeared on the white crystal tea table. This palm shape went straight down, and a palm-shaped hole appeared on the floor of the carriage. Looking down from the hole, one could see that the ground was rapidly receding along with the carriage's advance. Jun Lulu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She rolled her eyes. My elder sister is good at everything. But she curses people whenever her temper flares up. Moreover, she curses in a very manly manner. Jun Shizhu's complexion turned ice-cold. Her chest heaved up and down. It was clear that she was angry because of what Mo Qingwu had said. In fact, the Mo clan only wanted Mo Qingwu to get engaged. This was completely different from getting married. But what did Mo Qingwu know now? Jun Shizhu felt that the Mo clan was worse than a dog or a pig in her heart. What does it mean for an 11-year-old girl to get married? Needless to say, this is inhumane. Moreover, this is the biological daughter of the Mo clan's clan lord, Mo Xingqian. Her biological father is forcing his daughter to get married at the age of 11 for the sake of the clan's interests. This is a bastard to the extreme. Elder sister, you see. Jun Lulu's heart was overflowing with sympathy. She felt Mo Qingwu's thin and weak body trembling in her arms. And she couldn't help but feel a strong desire to protect her. Humph! The anger in Jun Shizhu's eyes receded like a tide. She insipidly said, We'll carry out the original plan. But Mo Tianyun will also be involved. Let Mo Xingqian, Mo Tianji, and Mo Tianyun send 20 million each. Tell them that one of them must take out all the money. No, all three of them must take out the money. Kill the hostage if even one of them is missing. Ah? Jun Lulu was gobsmacked. Wash her face. Let me take a look. Jun Shizhu's eyes narrowed. What's a good little girl like this for? A trace of amazement flashed through Jun Shizhu's eyes when Mo Qingwu came back after washing her face. She's really a beauty. Hee hee. Eh? She suddenly looked at Mo Qingwu's eyebrows as she said this. Young Miss Mo, come here. Let me take a look at you. Jun Shizhu beckoned her. Oh. Mo Qingwu timidly complied. Then, she obediently walked over. She was young, and had been captured. But she had a clear feeling that these two women wouldn't harm her. Jun Shiju looked at her, and finally nodded in satisfaction. Then, she felt strange again. It's strange. Her eyebrows are full of een. This is a 3-een body. So, she must have 3-een meridians. Are the people of the Mo clan blind? Are they all fucking senile? Such a genius with 3-een meridians wants to get married at the age of 11? I really don't get it. My 3-een meridians are already crippled. Mo Qingwu timidly said. Crippled? Nonsense. Jun Shiju was startled. Then she berated her. It's really crippled. Here I am. Mo Qingwu stretched out her hand and pointed. The people of the Black Devil clan once chopped my 3-een meridians. And my 3-een meridians were crippled. Oh? How can your eyebrows still gather een when your 3-een meridians are crippled? Jun Shiju pulled her over, and placed her hand on her wrist. Then she operated her martial power to examine her. She couldn't help but nod. Your 3-een meridians are indeed crippled. No wonder the Mo clan gave up. But why is this so strange? She withdrew her hand and frowned. She pondered hard. This shouldn't be the case. Her 3-een meridians are crippled. So, the een energy on her eyebrows should dissipate immediately. So, why hasn't hers dissipated? She thought for a while. Then, she grabbed Mo Qingwu's hand, and examined it carefully. A long while passed. Then, she suddenly withdrew her hand at lightning speed. She sucked in a cold breath. Did someone treat you? Yes. Mo Qingwu innocently blinked her eyes. Who? I heard from Elder Brother Chu. That person is called Du Shiqing. Mo Qingwu almost blurted out Chu Yang's name. Du Shiqing? Jun Shiju rolled her eyes. Who else could it be if he didn't have this ability? No. Mo Qingwu also blinked her eyes in astonishment. Really, no. That's not right. Jun Shiju frowned and pondered. Elder sister, what's wrong? Jun Lulu asked with a smile. Someone put a trace of a strange power in her damaged 3-een meridians. And it's because of this power that her 3-een meridians are still intact even though they've been crippled. This will increase her pain a lot. But she'll recover her exceptional talent once she's cured. She frowned in bewilderment. Her 3-een meridians would have been destroyed forever if it hadn't been for this mysterious power. But this power clearly left a trace of hope for her recovery, even though this hope is extremely slim. Hope? Jun Lulu was puzzled. It's equivalent to having no hope. Anyway, I can't think of any solution with my knowledge and experience. It would be useless even if she were to eat all kinds of wonderful medicines. Jun Shiju knitted her brows. But why would that person leave such a trace of hope? He's so powerful. So, he should have known that there's no hope. Powerful? Jun Lulu was startled. This was the first time that she had heard her elder sister say these words. Jun Shiju would rather break than bend. She had never admitted that there were any powerful people in the 3 heavens. However, she had willingly said these words this time. Powerful. Yes, powerful, Jun Shiju solemnly said. The person who left her this trace of hope has used the power of his spirit. This is different from the world's vitality. Moreover, the degree of strength of this spirit. Jun Shiju took a deep breath and said, I'll be far inferior to him even if I practice for 1,000 years. I'll be far inferior to him even if I practice for 1,000 years. Jun Lulu was completely shocked. She knew what level her elder sister was at now. But even her elder sister had said I'll be far inferior to him even if I practice for 1,000 years. So, the strength of this person who had left Mo Qingwu a trace of hope could be imagined. Supreme? Jun Lulu only had these 2 words left in her heart. Not necessarily. He may not necessarily be a supreme, Jun Shiju said in a heavy tone. Then, a doubtful and uncertain look flashed in her eyes. In fact, there was even a trace of perplexity in her eyes. She then said word by word, This kind of spirit power. I'm afraid even a supreme can't do it. PFFF. Cough, 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 cough. June Lulu was nervously drinking a mouthful of water. But she suddenly choked when she heard these words. And she coughed violently. Even a supreme can't do it. These words are unimaginable. Chapter 434. Little girl, you're not deceiving me, right? Jun Shizhu narrowed her eyes and looked at Mo Qingwu. At this moment, he suddenly felt a sense of dread towards this pitiful little girl. This little girl isn't simple. How important is the power of the spirit? The power of the spirit is the foundation of everything for a powerhouse. But a powerhouse who can't even reach the level of a supreme-level expert has consumed his own spirit power to leave a glimmer of hope for this little girl. The reason for this is thought-provoking. Jun Lulu wasn't the only one who was flabbergasted. Even Jun Shiju's heart was in turmoil. Think about it carefully. Is it true that no one has treated you? Jun Shizhu stared at Mo Qingwu's eyes. Mo Qingwu blankly shook her head. Her eyes were clear and innocent. Jun Shizhu was defeated by her clear eyes. She sat back on the brocade couch and rubbed her brows. Then she muttered to herself. That's right. Little girl, you wouldn't have felt anything if such a powerhouse didn't want you to know about it. Then everything would be over. Elder sister, I've thought of a possibility. Jun Lulu finally finished coughing. She frowned and pondered. Then, her eyes suddenly lit up. What possibility? Jun Shizhu asked in a heavy voice. I guess, a peerless genius must have passed by after little sister Mo got injured. Moreover, he must have come to her rescue. Jun Lulu analyzed. But this genius immediately discovered that even he couldn't do anything about the destruction of her 3 meridians, so, for the sake of the face problem, yes, for the sake of the face problem, he didn't appear. Jun Shizhu frowned and pondered. She then understood everything. Similarly, for the sake of the face problem, this genius left behind a wisp of his spirit power. And he went to the ends of the earth to find a solution. He would have come back to help her heal her 3 meridians if he had found a solution? I think so. Jun Lulu nodded affirmatively. It's reasonable to think so. Jun Shizhu looked at Mo Qingwu and suddenly asked. Young Miss Mo, you didn't return to the clan. Did you not understand the clan's decision? Mo Qingwu tightly pursed her lips. Her eyes flashed with hatred. Do you hate them? The look on Jun Shizhu's face became even more profound. Mo Qingwu suddenly remembered her father's heartlessness, her mother's helplessness, her elder brother's persecution, the great elder's callousness, and the heart-wrenching pain of having her treasured saber taken away. She couldn't help but shed tears. She couldn't say the word hate, but the look in her eyes had already explained everything. Tell me about it. Jun Shizhu's complexion softened. Jun Lulu lovingly held Mo Qingwu in her arms, and comforted her in a soft voice. Mo Qingwu's eyes turned red. She couldn't help but start to sob. She felt Jun Lulu's kindness. But she also felt that her heart was full of grievances. So, she almost couldn't breathe. So, she started to speak intermittently. The more Jun Shizhu heard, the weirder her complexion became. In fact, it seemed as if she was rolling around while holding her belly. Ha 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 ha! Jun Shizhu looked at Mo Qingwu, and sized her up from left to right. It seemed as if she had found a peerless treasure. She couldn't help but burst into loud laughter. Elder sister, what are you laughing at? Jun Lulu was puzzled. She was somewhat rebuking Mo Qingwu at the same time. She was overflowing with sympathy as she listened to Mo Qingwu's story. But she hadn't expected that her elder sister Jun Shizhu would laugh so happily. This little sister is so pitiful. But you're still laughing while listening to such a cruel experience? You don't have any sympathy, right? Mo Qingwu puffed up her cheeks, and looked at Jun Shizhu angrily. Ha ha! I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing, ha ha ha, I can't help it. Jun Shiju kept laughing. And she stopped after a while. Jun Lulu and Mo Qingwu were looking at her as if they were looking at a monster. I am laughing. The Mo clan is going to bang their heads against the wall and regret this time. Ha ha, that old bastard Mo Wu Xian always thinks that he's smart. He calculates this and that every day. He even calculates his own scheme. Mo Xingchen's face is even more shrewd. He thinks that his wisdom is unparalleled. He doesn't care about anyone in the upper three heavens. Jun Shiju was laughing so hard that she was rocking back and forth. This was the first time she had laughed so happily in so many years. It wasn't because of anything else. It was because this matter was simply too hilarious. These two bastards must have never thought that they would have taken away an opportunity to lead the Mo clan to the upper three heavens. They would have forced away the number one treasure of the upper and lower heavens. Jun Lulu thought for a while, and couldn't help but giggle. Jun Shiju's words were very reasonable. Which expert had left behind such a wisp of his spirit power? It wasn't because he was bored. His unwillingness to admit defeat in dealing with difficult and complicated diseases obviously couldn't explain the purpose of leaving behind such a precious spirit power. There must have been only one purpose. He had taken a fancy to Mo Qingwu. Or, he had taken a fancy to Mo Qingwu's aptitude. Therefore, he would have come back. It would have been a perfect ending as long as he came back. The Mo clan would have ascended to the heavens if they had continued to dote on Mo Qingwu until that expert came back. After all, they had taken away the bloodline of that expert. So, how could they not give him some benefits? Such an expert would have been enough for the Mo clan to enjoy endlessly even if he had only left behind a little something between his fingers. Moreover, Mo Qingwu would have acted coquettishly for the sake of their old relationship. If she acted coquettishly for her beloved disciple, that would have been a peerless weapon to deal with such an expert. He would have been able to do whatever he wanted in the upper three heavens with his strength far surpassing that of a supreme-level expert. He would have been invincible with just one hand. In fact, he wouldn't have needed to do anything. He would have only needed to say a few words, and the Mo clan would have become a super clan of the upper three heavens. The Mo clan would have been able to stand on equal footing with the dominant clans of the upper three heavens with Mo Qingwu around. Moreover, Mo Qingwu's path of cultivation would have been smooth since she had such an abnormal master. It wouldn't have been long. The Mo clan would have been the overlord of the entire upper three heavens by that time. Moreover, no one would have dared to provoke them. And there was only one reason for all of this: Mo Qingwu. Mo Qingwu could be regarded as the number one treasure of the upper and lower heavens from this point of view. Jun Shiju wasn't exaggerating about this. However, the Mo clan had ruthlessly offended this treasure that had originally belonged to them. They hadn't comforted her after her 3 meridians had been destroyed. Instead, they'd hit her when she was down. Moreover, they'd snatched her treasured saber. Jun Shiju was now convinced that Mo Qingwu's saber was the number one divine saber in the upper three heavens. How could a gift from a mysterious expert be bad? This saber was clearly a hint from that mysterious peerless expert to the Mo clan. There will be many benefits as long as you take good care of Mo Qingwu. This was a very obvious matter. Otherwise, who would have given such a shocking treasured saber to a little girl? It was a pity that those people of the Mo clan hadn't been able to detect the existence of the spiritual power. So, they'd ignored such an obvious hint. They'd been blinded by greed, and had snatched the treasured saber. This motherfucker was simply trying to hang himself. He was simply impatient to the extreme. Moreover, he'd gone from bad to worse. He'd even forced an 11-year-old girl like Mo Qingwu to get married. Perhaps the Mo clan wouldn't be able to survive if that expert were to find out about this. It had to be said that Jun Shiju's guess was completely opposite. The so-called peerless expert that they'd guessed didn't exist. The spiritual power that had been left behind in Mo Qingwu's body was a wisp of power that the sword's spirit had left behind to preserve Mo Qingwu's 3 meridians. Mo Qingwu didn't know about this. Chu Yang also didn't know about it. The Sword Spirit had done this so that the Tribulation Sword Master wouldn't have any regrets in his life. Especially, this was Mo Qingwu. She was the person Chu Yang was most obsessed with. The Tribulation Sword Master had been reborn for Mo Qingwu. How could the Sword Spirit dare to neglect? However, Jun Shiju's guess was completely correct from a certain point of view. That was because Chu Yang was the Tribulation Sword Master. Would Chu Yang treat his father-in-law's family unfairly as long as the Mo clan treated Mo Qingwu well? Then, the Mo clan would have a place in the upper three heavens when it underwent a revolution. There was no doubt about this. However, things had come to this point now. Chu Yang was already giving face to Mo Qingwu by not exterminating the Mo clan. So, how could he give the Mo clan any benefits? According to Chu Yang's character, at least half of the Mo clan's people would have to die in order to barely vent his anger. Therefore, it could be said that Jun Shiju's words were inadvertently correct. I'm thinking, what would the expressions on the faces of Mo Wu Xian and Mo Xingchen if they knew about this? Jun Shiju laughed wildly. Mo Wu Xian would certainly die of anger on the spot. Mo Xingchen's face would also be very wonderful. Unfortunately, I won't be able to see it. She laughed for a while. Then, she stroked her chin and looked at Mo Qingwu. Then, she gently smiled and said, Such a treasure has fallen into my hands from the sky. How could I let it go? It would be intolerable if I let it go. These words were purely calculated. Moreover, they shouldn't have been spoken in front of Mo Qingwu. However, Jun Shiju didn't seem to have the slightest scruple. She had just said it out loud. Even Jun Lulu was startled by this point. This little girl looks delicate and pitiful. But she's very crafty. Do you think that she won't be able to guess it if I don't say it? It would seem that we're sinister if we don't say it. It's better to say it openly. I want to bask in the glory. What's wrong with that? This is an open and above-board matter. So, why do I have to be so sneaky? Jun Shiju mischievously smiled and looked at Mo Qingwu. Miss Mo, don't you think so? Mo Qingwu had been listening attentively. She couldn't help but nod in agreement. Yes. She knew that something was wrong after she had finished speaking. But Jun Shiju had already laughed. Mo Qingwu had indeed thought so in her heart. Jun Shiju's analysis had been right in front of her. Mo Qingwu was extremely intelligent. So, how could she not understand the importance of this? She would have felt awkward if Jun Shiju hadn't said it. However, Mo Qingwu felt somewhat relieved in her heart now that she had said it so straightforwardly. Chapter 435. A true villain is not to be feared, because all his overt schemes are not schemes, but overt schemes. The most frightening thing was the fake monarch. Jun Shiju was also helpless. She also wanted to make a fortune in secret. It wouldn't be difficult for her to conceal her wealth from Mo Qingwu today. However, that expert would come in the future. How could such a peerless expert not see that she was small in comparison? That would only backfire on him. Perhaps the dark bamboo would be destroyed because of this. Therefore, after thinking for a long time, she decided to be honest with him now. We are the underworld forces. And isn't this what the underworld forces pursue? Jun Shiju said. Let those fake monarchs cry. This is how I am. Miss Mo, you have nowhere to go for the time being. So why don't you stay here for the time being? Jun Shiju asked with a smile. Then, I still have to go to the Tsanglan battlefront. Mo Qingwu opened her big round eyes. It doesn't matter. We are also going to the Tsanglan battlefront. Jun Shiju chuckled. It won't be a problem if we travel together. However, are you really going to the Tsanglan battlefront to look for Mo Tianji? No. Mo Qingwu recalled how second brother had lowered his head and refused to look at her when she was at her most helpless. Suddenly, her heart ached, and her eyes reddened again. I'm not going to look for him. Oh? Jun Jingzhu was stunned. Then who are you looking for? I am looking for Big Brother Gudu Xing, Big Brother GMO, Big Brother Luo Kudi, Big Brother Dong Wu Shang, Big Brother Ji Butong. Mo Qingwu counted with her fingers one by one. Jun Shiju. I didn't think that this little girl would have such a wide circle of friends. She even has 4 of the top 10 new young experts. Moreover, she also has the sole successor of the stealing god and thieving ghosts. Who are they to you? They are my elder brother Chu's brothers. Mo Qingwu said with certainty. I'll find them and wait for elder brother Chu to come. Brother Chu? Jun Shiju wrinkled her brows. She suddenly recalled the words Chu Xiaoyang, Chu Deyang that she had said in the exam. Her heart suddenly moved and she said, Your elder brother Chu. Chu Yang? The famous king of Hell Chu of the lower 3 heavens? Mo Qingwu blinked a few times. She had already regained her usual shrewdness and said, Yes, that's my elder brother Chu Yang. Humph, since I'm such an important person in your heart, then surely you won't dare to do anything to my elder brother Chu Yang. King of Hell Chu has sent 3 people. Jun Shiju's complexion sank. She then gently shifted her gaze towards Jun Lulu. She pondered for a long while, and then said, Ah Lu, King of Hell Chu, has a friendship with you, right? I heard that King of Hell Chu helped you a lot when you broke through the heavenly zither sound face? Yes. Jun Lulu had always been grateful to Chu Yang in her heart. So, she replied without hesitation. That King of Hell Chu Yang is indeed a rare man in this world. And Mo Qingwu's eyes suddenly flashed with a proud light. Her small face seemed to be glowing under this banner. She was so excited that her delicate body began to tremble. My brother Chu Yang. Brother Chu Yang. He was well versed in both martial arts, and was a rare man in the world. This is the evaluation of my elder brother Chu Yang. Did brother Chu Yang teach you how to play the zither? And Mo Qingwu curiously looked at Jun Lulu. Yes, Jun Lulu replied with a smile. It's all thanks to him. And Mo Qingwu suddenly felt stifled in her heart. She looked at Jun Lulu's eyes with intense hostility. And Mo Qingwu obviously didn't know anything about love at her age. She also didn't have such thoughts. But she didn't know why she felt hostility towards this banner. She just felt uncomfortable. Humph! Her small face turned away, and she angrily turned her head away. Oh my! Jun Lulu pointed at her in amazement and laughed. This little girl is jealous, ha ha! And Mo Qingwu pouted her small mouth and sulked. Jun Lulu deliberately teased her. She then said in a nostalgic tone, Also, Chu Yang is very handsome. His voice is very pleasant to listen to. He plays the zither well. Little Wu, have you ever heard your brother Chu Yang play the zither? Humph! And Mo Qingwu's voice became even louder. She felt extremely aggrieved. I haven't heard it. Boo-hoo, brother Chu Yang plays the zither for this woman. He doesn't play for me. Boo-hoo, I'm so sad. Chu Yang would have spat out a mouthful of blood if he were here. I can't play the zither. Who did I play it for? I'm being wrongly accused. Ha ha ha! Jun Lulu giggled. She looked like a little hen who had stolen food to eat. Well, little Wu saw Chu Yang and asked him to play for you. Then she left. Jun Shiju came out to smooth things over. She thought that Chu Yang's zither skills were naturally good since he could instruct Jun Lulu to play the zither. Wouldn't playing the zither and coaxing a little girl be a piece of cake? Little did he know that these words had put King of Hell Chu in an awkward situation where he was at the end of his rope and had nowhere to go. And Mo Qingwu's eyes lit up. Well, elder sister, since this is the case, should we stop extorting money from the Mo clan? Should we cancel our original plan? Jun Lulu glanced at Mo Qingwu. She stopped laughing and asked Jun Shiju. Oh? That won't do! Jun Shiju flatly refused. She coldly said, We are a force of the underworld. So, we can't lose our position as an underworld force. Ah? Jun Lulu blinked. She was extremely surprised. And Mo Qingwu also blinked her eyes in confusion. But wouldn't little Wu have to return the money to them once they get it? Perhaps they would force her to get married once she goes back. June Lulu was somewhat anxious. Ah, Lu, you've been with me for so many years. How can you not recognize our position? Jun Shizhu helplessly frowned and said, Who am I? I'm Jun Shizhu. Eh? The Mo clan wants to take her away after getting the money? How can they let her go so easily? Jun Shizhu held Mo Qing Wu in her arms. She mischievously smiled. Little Wu is such a treasure. How can I return her to them? That would be a dream. Ah? You won't return her. Could it be that you want to eat 10 million for free? Jun Lulu was surprised. This isn't good, right? Because we are an underworld force. What is an underworld force? This is an underworld force, Jun Shizhu said in a profound manner. Jun Lulu was obviously confused and disoriented. Elder sister, you often say that even a thief has a moral code. Yes, even a thief has a moral code. This is my moral code. Jun Shizhu glared at her. What I get is my moral code. What's the matter? Ask 3 people, and tell them that I, Jun Shizhu, have said so. Who dares to say that I'm wrong? Jun Lulu was left speechless. It seems that elder sister is determined to blackmail the Mo clan. This is also a way to vent Little Wu's anger. Humph, they cruelly bullied and mistreated my darling Little Wu. So, how can they not pay the price? Jun Shizhu changed the topic, and gave an extremely far-fetched reason. However, Mo Qing Wu's eyes lit up. She suddenly felt that Jun Shizhu had become a bit more cordial. Jun Lulu was dumbfounded. Tell me about King of Hell Chu. Little Wu is also very interested in him, Jun Shizhu said with a smile. Mo Qing Wu's eyes lit up. This elder sister looks fierce. But she's actually a good person. She knows what I want to hear. King of Hell Chu? Jun Lulu stared blankly for a moment. She recalled the street corner with Chu Yang. Then, she sorted out her thoughts, and started to speak. Jun Shizhu listened in silence. Then, she suddenly interrupted and said, So Chu Yang has 5 sworn brothers. Gudu Xing, Luo Kudi, and Gmo Dong Wu Shang, Rui Butong, right? Yes. Jun Lulu thought for a moment, and affirmed. These people are very famous now. They clearly have a bright future ahead of them. But you haven't noticed that 3 of these brothers of Chu Yang are the second duke of their respective big clans. Yin Butong is the younger brother of Stealing God and Thieving Ghost. He's free to do as he pleases in the 3 heavens. And Gu Du Xing was tantamount to a hired thug of the Gu clan when he became sworn brothers with Chu Yang. And Gu Du Xing became the young clan lord after the 2 dukes of the Gu clan died in an accident. Jun Shizhu's eyes flashed with brilliance. They are all such characters, why? Jun Lulu was startled. She hadn't thought of this. King of Hell Chu, it seems that his ambition isn't small. His ambition is very broad, Jun Shizhu coldly said. However, she had wrongly accused Chu Yang. After all, these people had been roped in by Gu Du Xing. That's not necessarily the case. After all, King of Hell Chu's strength is still very small. And his brothers are included as well. They are in the limelight now. But they can vanish like smoke overnight if we deliberately deal with them. Jun Lulu thought for a moment, and said with uncertainty. Not necessarily. Jun Shizhu pondered. Jun Lulu remained silent. Mo Qing Wu blinked her big eyes. She was still pondering over what Jun Lulu had said. Elder brother Chu Yang, King of Hell Chu, used thunderous methods to subdue Iron Cloud. Wanli broke through the continent alone. He stirred up the world by himself. Elder brother Chu Yang is awesome. Elder brother Chu Yang is the most awesome. Mo Qing Wu's eyes flashed with light. Her heart was infinitely satisfied. It seemed that she had also felt the same way about those world-shaking things that Chu Yang had done. She felt extremely glorious, and extremely proud. Jun Shizhu snorted, and closed her eyes to rest. However, he was thinking in his heart, There are only two people in the lower three heavens who can benefit from this if that mysterious expert comes. One is King of Hell Chu, who is about to come up from the lower three heavens. As for the other one, as long as I operate well and win over Mo Ching Wu, it will undoubtedly be me. But how to deal with Chu Yang? Is he an opponent or an ally? This is a problem. That Chu Yang isn't simple either. Jun Shizhu quickly began to calculate. What will the consequences be if I kill Chu Yang? What will the consequences be if I maintain a good relationship with Chu Yang? The aura on her body was somewhat cold and murderous for a while. Then, it was somewhat warm like a spring breeze. Her aura had changed in an instant. However, Mo Ching Wu's heart was full of lively thoughts. It seems that there is no danger for the time being. This dark bamboo looks very scary. But she seems to be very kind to me now. Moreover, she seems to be plotting something. I don't know if I should ask her to help elder brother Chu Yang? After all, elder brother Chu Yang is a stranger in the upper three heavens. He will be under a lot of pressure if dark bamboo is willing to help him. Chapter 436. The wind was whistling outside as the carriage continued to move forward. There were 3 women in the carriage. Some were old, and some were young. All of them were thinking about their own matters. Reporting to Minister Jun, the 3 letters for the Mo clan have already been sent out. A voice came in from outside. Jun Shizhu nodded indifferently, and replied with a hum. Jun Shizhu opened her eyes after a long while. Then she said, Ah Lu, send an order to Duke Yu. Tell him to adjust the betting odds of Ji Mo's victory to 1-5. Ah? Jun Lulu was startled. So high? Yes. Jun Shizhu gently nodded. Then, she thought for a moment and said, Find a way to transfer the hidden bid to the open bid after adjusting the odds of the hidden bid. And Duke Yu will give up the banker. He will let Ao Xia Yun, O Du Xiao, and Mo Tian Yun, and Xia Dan Cheong become the main bankers. She thought for a moment and said, Let him continue to bet on Ji Mo's victory after he gives up the banker. In short, the higher the betting odds, the better. Jun Lulu was even more bewildered. GMO and the others' chances of winning aren't high. And it'll be even more difficult to deal with them now. Moreover, the banker will make a big profit if they lose. So, why would elder sister give up such a huge profit? Jun Lulu was at a loss. This was a huge bet that had gathered all the aristocratic clans of the 3 heavens. The profit was unimaginable. So, Jun Shizhu wanted to give it up. Give up such a huge profit? Jun Shizhu snorted and said, Why would I? Are you so sure that GMO and the others will lose? Is there any suspense in this? Jun Lulu's forehead was sweating. Gao Xing's side is full of genuine first-rate heirs of great aristocratic clans. And Ji Mo's side is basically a group of 2 dukes. Moreover, these people are among the top 10 experts of the younger generation. It's clear at a glance who will win and who will lose. Ha. Jun Shizhu faintly smiled and said, In addition, mobilize another 500 million silver taels. And bet on Ji Mo's victory on the last day of the bet. Jun Lulu nearly fell down from her chair. Elder sister, are you crazy? Jun Lulu exclaimed. I know what I'm doing. Jun Shizhu faintly smiled and said, This is a big gift from our dark bamboo to King of Hell Chu's brothers. Let's see if they can take it. Jun Shizhu had already made up her mind at this moment. I will make friends with King of Hell Chu at all costs. However, Jun Shizhu had a precondition for doing so. GMO and the others must win. If GMO and the others were still defeated after paying such a huge price, then it would be a complete loss. Not only would they not be good people, but they would also lose money and become enemies. It was a huge gift. Jun Lulu was so shocked that she couldn't speak. Where did her elder sister's confidence come from? Giving up the banker of the gambling house, taking out 500 million taels of silver, and lowering the odds of winning. This was equivalent to throwing out 1.5 billion taels of silver. Although she knew that her elder sister had always been bold, this time, her boldness was really a little too much. Jun Shiju shook her head when she saw the doubt on her younger sister's face. She then comforted her. Don't worry. GMO will win. Jun Lulu was stunned. This? Elder sister Alu, where are we going? Mo Qingwu tilted her head. She had heard the names of GMO and the others, and had pricked up her ears. We are going to the place you want to go. Jun Lulu gently smiled. Your elder brothers are there. Mo Qingwu's small face lit up with excitement. Little Wu. But you have to think clearly. They won't be able to protect you if the Mo clan goes to ask for you if you're with them. Jun Shiju frowned. They can't protect me? Mo Qingwu had wholeheartedly rushed out. But she hadn't thought of this point. She couldn't help but feel somewhat perplexed as she heard this. Yes, they can't protect you. Jun Lulu also sighed. You are the daughter of the Mo clan after all. The Mo clan has a righteous reason to want you. But it would be taboo if they don't hand you over. Moreover, those people are second duke. They don't have any real power in their respective clans. So, their clans won't defend a huge force like the Mo clan for them. Mo Qingwu's complexion suddenly turned pale. These words were absolutely the truth. Mo Qingwu believed that her brothers would protect her at all costs as long as she went there. But her brothers wouldn't be able to withstand the pressure of her own clan if they were to step in. Moreover, the pressure from the other great clans would also be exerted on them. She would have implicated them if that happened. Stay here with me, Jun Shiju insipidly said. All the big clans will come to me in 3 days to ask for you. And I'll send them all the same. Get lost. Mo Qingwu hesitated. Jun Shiju's words had a certain purpose. But she wasn't wrong at all. Her elder brothers wouldn't be able to protect her if this news were to leak out. So, the only one who could protect her was... I hope that you can stay here. First of all, we are both women. I can teach you some things. I can also help you gain experience in Jianghu. I can also shield you from all the storms. And I can also safely wait for your elder brother Chu Yang, Jun Shiju insipidly said. She had made up her mind to help Mo Qingwu since she had heard that her clan had forced her to marry. This had nothing to do with benefits. As for the conjecture that her 3 meridians had caused, it was only later. I have to think about it. Mo Qingwu frowned. She couldn't make up her mind. Jun Shiju faintly smiled. She didn't speak anymore. She knew that such a question and a choice in front of such a little girl was indeed somewhat profound. But Jun Shiju believed that Mo Qingwu could understand it. She had her own plans for where to go from here. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for an 11-year-old girl to escape for 4,000 miles by herself. This required not only courage, but also wisdom. This seemingly delicate girl had already been tempered by her own clan, and had become unyielding in her bones. Jun Shiju was very appreciative of this. She also wanted to see how far this lovely girl could go if Mo Qingwu accepted her teachings. Would she be stronger than me? A strange noise came from the front. It seemed that the procession had slowed down. Minister Jun, the people of the Huang clan are hurrying ahead. But they are somewhat slow. Zhuiji has already sent people to make an exception. He wants them to get out of the way. A respectful voice reported from outside. Kill them all if they don't get out of the way within 3 breaths. Jun Shiju didn't even lift her eyelids. She insipidly said, Who would dare to block my way within 3 days? You still want to ask such a thing? Song Zhangwu, have you lost your mind? Yes. Yes. This subordinate will do it right away. The voice outside quickly went away. It fiercely resounded from afar. People of the Huang clan, listen up. Kill them all if they don't get out of the way within 3 breaths. 1, 2. Then, a panic-stricken and shrill voice resounded. How can you be so unreasonable? A hideous smile was heard. We are the reason. Motherfucker, you want to reason with the people of our dark bamboo. This is the first time I've encountered such a pervert. 3. Will you get out of the way? Then, a burst of chaotic sound was heard. It seemed that those people had been driven into the ditch. The speed of the dark bamboo's troops increased again. They whistled like a wild dragon. Mo Qingwu couldn't help but lift the curtain of the carriage and look outside. She saw that there were cliffs on both sides of the road. Those people of the Huang clan were standing on the edge of the cliff with anger and humiliation written all over their faces. Their heels had even reached the edge of the cliff. They were standing perfectly straight. The muscles of their entire bodies were stretched tight. They were afraid that they would fall down. The cavalry of the dark bamboo swept past their faces in such an ostentatious manner. Their tongues were raised in the wind, and they were continuously slapping these people's bodies and faces. They were laughing wildly without any fear. Several screams resounded. It seemed that several people had been beaten down, and had fallen down the cliff. However, no one dared to curse or rebel. Mo Qingwu put down the curtain of the carriage, and sighed. Jun Shizhu opened her eyes, and looked at Mo Qingwu. Then she slowly said, "See? Don't sigh. This is Jianghu. Elder sister status is the realm that the people of Jianghu strive for all their lives." She rubbed her eyebrows in a somewhat tired manner and said, "Therefore, everyone wants strength. Everyone wants to become stronger. The strong don't need sympathy in this world. And the weak don't deserve sympathy." Jun Shizhu slowly said, "Therefore, sympathy is useless in this world. Either you let him bully you even more, or you bully him to make him submit to you and be afraid of you. It's really cruel." Mo Qingwu gently sighed. Her bright and beautiful eyes seemed to be contemplating something. The ancients said that it's difficult to achieve great things if you're soft-hearted. "They're talking about us women," Jun Shizhu coldly said. "But I, Jun Shizhu, refuse to accept this. Why do women give people such an impression? Soft-hearted? It's ridiculous. Are we women born to be looked down upon? What kind of shameful statement is this? There are so many men in the world who are unnecessarily benevolent. The so-called benevolence and righteousness are made up by men. The so-called etiquette and morality are also made up by men. Why do women have to bear this evil reputation?" Jun Shizhu coldly said, "I want the men of the world to see that we women can also make the world tremble. Therefore I, Jun Shizhu, am a woman. But I want to intimidate the three heavens with an iron fist. I want to suppress the underworld of the three heavens with my power. The dark bamboo command will make all heroes bow their heads." A cold light flashed in Jun Shizhu's eyes as she continued, "I want these stinky men to see that we so-called weak women are kneeling in front of them. Women, men." Mo Qingwu suddenly trembled with excitement. It had to be said that Jun Shizhu's words were undoubtedly extremely powerful in inciting women. It was simply overturning rivers and seas, turning heaven and earth upside down. This. Mo Qingwu's blood was boiling in her heart. She wanted to say, "I also want to do this." However, she suddenly became discouraged after she thought about it. She rolled her eyes for a moment, and suddenly said, "About this, I want to ask my elder brother Chuyang." Jun Shizhu was dumbfounded. "And I want to ask elder brother Chuyang about those things you just said." Mo Qingwu's big eyes flickered as she looked at Jun Shizhu. She then resolutely said. Jun Shizhu choked, and coughed repeatedly. She had almost spurted out a mouthful of blood because of these two sentences. She had never expected that this little girl's impassioned expression would change. And her blood would boil for a long time. Then she would come out with such a weak and useless sentence. Fourth update. It's finally finished. The speed is a bit slow. Please understand. No one can understand my helplessness and powerlessness. I felt when I was overtaken at the last moment after my breakthrough for a month. And I couldn't do anything about it. Such a thing is too cruel for me. I've written this update. And I've revised it twice. I wanted to wait until midnight to post it. So, I could conveniently ask for a guaranteed monthly vote. But everyone would have had to wait an hour with me if that had happened. Hee hee. So, I posted it immediately. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brothers and sisters who waited until midnight to cast their monthly votes. But I wish you a good dream. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.